All right, sports fans, welcome out to another episode of the Gridiron 64 podcast. This is episode number 7. Part 2 and 3 will go together. Part 2 is the breakdown from week 6, and the preview will be week 7, the games that will be played this upcoming Friday. And of course, I've got the whole crew in full effect, the Gridiron 64 crew. We've got the coach, Steve Cantu. Coach, how you doing this evening?
Hey, blessed, brother. Happy to be here.
We also got the Z-Man, Johnny Zavala. How you doing, Z-Man?
Doing good.
And then we got Big T, Tony Pena. How you doing, sir?
Good, man. Ready to get it.
That's right. And I'm your host, Gabriel Trevino. We're going to bring you some breakdown and previews. We had some good games in week 6. I guess I didn't do very good in my picks, man. This is actually the worst week I've had since we started this, so I got to get back on track. I'm still ahead, thank God, but not doing really good. This would have been my opportunity to even gain a bigger lead. That didn't happen, so I got to get back on track. So I'm going to pass it over to Big T, and he's going to lead us in the breakdown, and then we're going to go right into the preview. Take it away, Big T.
Right. So this week Steve was the big winner with the most wins. And we'll go through that as we go along. But the first game that we're gonna talk about, we got Ingleside over Robstown 44-8. And it looks like we all picked Ingleside to win this game. So I'll go to you first, Steve. What are your thoughts on the game?
Well, hey, Ingleside did a great job. They did what they're supposed to. Robstown comes in. They had a chance to move into second place. Depends how you look at it, right? They're tied as far as record goes for first place. But I think that puts them in second place behind Sinton, if I'm not mistaken. But they did a great job. These guys are doing well. They're putting up lots of points. They got 196 points scored, averaging 39 points a game. And that's including preseason and these 2 district games. And they're only giving up 64 points. No, wait a minute. Yeah, that's what it says. 64 points in 5 games. So their defense is playing super well. So, those guys are really playing. I mean, they're serious down there in Ingleside. I mean, just like we've been kind of building up and talking them up really good. Those boys are putting it to work on the field. They're turning our words into reality down there. Those guys are really believing in their program. They're rallying behind their coach. I think this guy's got them clicking on all cylinders right now. And we all kind of laughed at coach when he said, "Hey, I appreciate everything y'all doing down there, but our target goal isn't 4th place." You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. Hey, he's definitely showing us, where his team is. Those guys are doing a great job. Robstown, 0-2 to start the district. That's kind of a tough. They had two tough teams. Tough losses actually, and it's going to be tough sledding for the Cottonpickers. I think this year, they're giving up 32 points a game, and anytime you're giving up 32 points a game out to shoot, and that's to everybody, and that's even to the guys that they play preseason, and only scoring 20 points on an average. You know what I'm saying? That's just not enough. It's not going to get it done. Those boys, I hope that they get it turned around down there in time to make a run, but they definitely made it harder for themselves. They dig their way out of an 0-2 hole. I mean, if somebody's got to win, somebody's got to lose. We took an L this week ourselves, but so it's going to be how to see how they respond, right? I mean, it's 0-2. They got a tough draw. I mean, they got a tough road. I mean, I think their tail end of their season is probably the toughest out of everybody in the district. They got to play the toughest teams towards the end. So it's only going to get harder from here for the Cottonpickers. Their next opponent is going to be Raymondville. I'm interested to see how they're going to do down there. Hopefully they can come out with the win. All those boys, like, Tony's always saying that, all those kids, they deserve a win. You know what I'm saying? Every now and again, they put in the time. and the effort and the coaches, all the hours that they put in. So I'm hoping that they get off the snide here soon for their program's sake. So yeah, man, Ingleside, I picked them to win, and they made me a winner.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Coach Hamrick is doing a really good job with the boys down there in Ingleside. Johnny, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I had picked Ingleside over Robstown on this one pretty easily on that. Hey, Ingleside's on a roll right now. You know that I don't know if anything's going to stop them from that for a little while. They're 5-0, first time in 10 years. They've been 5-0. They come at you quick. They jumped on Robstown 23 points in the first quarter. What a way to start off a game. They hard to catch up with 23 points in that first quarters. Odem Jacobson went, he was 8 for 13 for 89 yards, and he had 3 touchdown passes. So that quarterback, we're talking about quarterbacks around the district, so it seems like every quarterback in the district standing out this year.
Yeah, absolutely. He's the only one. He's the only one that I didn't have stats for. So you said he threw for 89?
89 yards,
Friday?
yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, because his stats weren't updated online, so I didn't know that. But yeah. So Gabriel, what are your thoughts on the game?
No surprise. I thought Ingleside would win. Let's jump over to the Robstown side first. They got a new coach out there. Robstown's always in a tough district. They've been in the Rockport district for the last few years. Sinton, and these are programs that have been good for the last 10 years. Rockport and Sinton. So Robstown's had it tough. Now you're seeing an Ingleside team that's up and coming, and you're starting to see from the last maybe 5 or 6 years, this is what's happening. All the hard work and all the stuff that Coach Hamrick has done in Ingleside is paying off this year. And so I think, we just had Coach Smithy up from West Oso, and we're talking about on his second year how he's turning that program around. So this could be very, very good district in the next 3 to 5 years. We'll see what happens. But as far as this game, I didn't give Robstown a chance. Ingleside was just on the road, and even if they had turnovers, I thought that they would beat Robstown. So I'm looking for Robstown to be competitive. They've got Raymondville coming up. They can be competitive. I don't know if the game's going to be played in Robstown or Raymondville, but hopefully it can be competitive. We'd like to see Robstown win, obviously. But if you don't win the game, you at least want to see them get competitive. You don't want to see another 44-8 loss to Robstown. You want to see these guys compete and build something, for next year. So hopefully we'll see that from Robstown. But then you flip it over to Ingleside. These guys are undefeated, and with every win that they get, they gain more confidence that they can win the district, and that's very dangerous. You've heard Steve talk on this podcast about how strong those boys are. They've got some strong boys over there, real strong boys that can move some people. So, and now you're starting to see the football part, and they're working. And you talk about the quarterback, and they can run the ball. And Ingleside's had a good defense here for the last few years. So now you're starting to see the offense put up some points. They've always had the defense that could play with some of the schools here in our district, our programs. The offense was the one that struggled getting points. So that's not happening this year. The defense is playing well. Now the offense is scoring points, and the result is 5-0. So be careful with Ingleside, but no surprise here that Ingleside beat Robstown.
Yeah, yeah, Robstown does have some wins, and they scored 40 points against Port Isabel. So I definitely thought that it was going to be a lot more competitive. I was hoping for a more competitive game, but that didn't happen. But I feel like they will be traveling down to Raymondville. I do feel like that game will be a little bit more competitive, just because I've already seen a couple of Raymondville's games. So I feel like Robstown will at least have a chance against Raymondville. So we'll see. I hope that, like Steve said, they got 2 wins under their belt. It'd be nice for them to get another couple. I don't know. We'll just have to see. They'll have to play 4 quarters. Like we always say on the gridiron, you got to be able to play 4 quarters and put a game away, and then hopefully Robstown could do that. The next game I have West Oso over Rio Hondo 34-20. In this game, the Z-Man is the only one that went with Rio Hondo. So I'm gonna go ahead and go to him first.
Yeah, I went with Real Honda thinking, they were going to pull this one out. But when you have 4 fumbles and 2 interceptions, we're talking about turnovers with, especially from the coach of West also about turnovers. Real Honda had 6 turnovers themselves this game.
Mhm.
So you can't go into a game expecting to win a game, with 2 interceptions with 4 fumbles. That's a lot to overcome. But hey, West also came out on the offense. They had 345 yards total offense, and we're speaking of the quarterback. He had 202 passing. So West also still went on. Continuing on. They put, just because you have those turnovers, most of those turnovers end up, short field for the team. But hey, they still were driving the ball. So I got hit. Good job, West also. That put something in my mind right now. So I kind of itching toward West also now.
Yeah, and since you brought up the quarterback, I just want to say, because I didn't get to say this, I didn't have this stat in front of me while we were interviewing Coach Smitty, but I do have the stat now. The quarterback in West Oso actually has the highest passing yards in our district right now with 818 yards passing. I didn't look at touchdowns. I know he has 8. I don't know how many touchdowns other quarterbacks have, but he does have the most passing right now, and definitely showed out with 200 versus Rio Hondo. So, like we said with Coach Smitty, I look forward to seeing the growth and development this season and seeing what else he has, because he also has over 200 yards rushing on the season. So, it's an interesting thing going down there in West Oso, and yeah, they've been putting up some pretty good numbers, and they had some tough losses, but I think they're going to turn their program around and win some more games. Steve, what are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I think once the kid down there, once Pena cleans up the turnovers, then West Oso is really going to take off. I think it's tough to finish games and win games. When you're playing well, and it's tough to overcome turnovers. Like the Z-Man said. But I mean, he's playing well, and it's the only bad part in his game that I've seen. A lot of them were early in the season, but he's still. I believe he's still through one this week. But I mean, he's got to. He cleans that up, and then sky's the limits for this team. I'm saying these guys are playing well. They're competitive, right? So I'd be interested to see how far these guys could really go. The coach down there really has those guys believing in themselves, and they've all bought into the program, and just clean up a few things, and then who knows, where West Oso may end up, but they're playing that well. This week's going to be a tough test for them. They got to play Ingleside. They got to go to Ingleside, play Ingleside over there, so that's going to be a tough game for them. Yeah, that's going to be a tough game for them, and I mean, I don't know. Hey, right now, we still got a while till we got to make these picks, but I don't know. This is one I'm gonna spend some time on, and really consider taking West Oso. I'm gonna do my due diligence and crunch the numbers and see, what they tell me I should pick. But my heart right now wants to believe that West Oso may be able to pull one out, but we'll see. I won't say that officially, but we'll see where we're at. Just like we talked about Robstown, Rio Hondo's dug themselves a hole. They're 0-2 in this district, and we know it's going to be tough sledding out of the top 3, and then that top 4. That 4th team, you put them into the thing. It's going to be hard for these guys to get wins. I'm looking at all these guys' upcoming schedules, and it's going to be tough for them to find wins. The Valley. I think they're going to probably beat up on each other, and that's probably going to be the most that they have to look forward to. I don't see them. I really do think that it's going to be out of Robstown and West Oso who beats each other, because I think the Valley teams, everybody's are going to cave there, and I think the only wins they get are going to be against each other. you know, obviously you can't make it, you know, with the 2 wins. So, you know, so it's going to be tough sledding for Rio Hondo as well. You know, and Rio Hondo's next opponent's Rockport. So, you know, that you can hang an L on them right now.
Yeah. Well, I know you talked about not making that official pick yet, but you only have about 30 minutes to decide about if you're
Oh,
gonna
I
pick them or
know.
not. 'Cause
Hey,
we go into that here next.
we may break into it. I thought we might take a break. If we take another break, then everybody's going to think it's a different day that these guys did it. So I'm talking in those senses.
All right. All right, Johnny, what are your thoughts on this game?
I already went over that one.
Yeah, Johnny was first.
Oh yeah, my bad, because you picked them. You picked Rio Hondo. I'm sorry, Gabriel.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, West Coast. So let's go to West Coast because I don't really know a lot about the Valley teams, right? We had talked about them earlier when they were losing. We were saying, hey, they're competing, and they're competing against smaller schools than them, but they're really good schools in those divisions. And so it was just a matter of putting 4 quarters together. So we talked about this game and we said, hey, we think West Oso can win this game. I mean, I actually thought they could win if they could put 4 quarters without really knowing what this quarterback had done. And they get the win. So I think this one win that they have now, I think they're going to compete against Ingleside. Now, do I think they'll beat Ingleside? You know, I'm going to go with Ingleside when we do our picks, just because Hamrick's been there longer and they're 5-0. So this is not, you know, I think Ingleside could overcome a couple of penalties and still win this game. Now the turnovers are a lot different. But you got to remember with West Oso, you know that they got a quarterback. And we talked to Coach Smithy where he said, listen, my guy, he's a leader and he's taking care of the ball and he's getting better every week. So Ingleside, even they've had a really good defense, they're going to have to come out and play against West Oso. If Ingleside comes out and they turn the ball over and they're not playing clean ball, then I can see West Oso coming in the Ingleside and beating them. But it'd have to be something where Ingleside falls apart. I think if Ingleside continues to play the way they play, I don't think that they're that much better than West Oso, because I think West Oso is a lot better than their record. But I just think those boys have been under Hamrick's system for a long time now. A lot of these guys were probably in junior high when Hamrick first got here. So they've been working his program. So they understand how that program works. And the other thing I always keep thinking about is what Steve said, they got some strong boys down there. Coach Smitty's second year, really his first full year that he's been able to put his program together. So they're playing a lot better. I think West Oso's ahead of schedule, but I don't know if they're ahead enough to beat Ingleside. So I want to take Ingleside, obviously, when we preview, but I love what West Oso's doing, Tony. I like what Coach Smitty's doing. You know, we've had him on here, and it's not going to take him very long. And one thing we always talk about here on this program is we know that every year West Oso has athletes. They do. You know, you heard Coach Smitty talk about the basketball program. Every year they've got athletes, every year. So it's a matter of a coach getting in there and putting their system together. And while Harlow got there, coach prior to Smitty, look what he did with that program before he left. And those guys were playing very well, getting 3 rounds in the playoffs, just like Sinton and just like Rockport was. You know, we were losing in those rounds. So there's no reason to believe that Coach Smitty can't get them going up there. Listen, guys, starting in 2 years from now, if West Oso continues to climb in Ingleside, you're going to have 4 teams. You know, they got to do the realignment after this year, right? But if everything stays the same, you'll have a really good West Oso, Ingleside, Rockport, and Sinton team. That's going to be exciting, guys, because that's what we want from our district. We don't want 2 teams from our district to just go. We want all 4 teams, right? And then if the Valley teams stay with us. So it gets really interesting next year and the year after. But I think, you know, West Oso being Rio Hondo, it was no surprise to me. You know, we thought that those guys could go in there and win, and they did. You know, they played a Rio Hondo team, and now they've got confidence. So they're taking that confidence in with their leader, their quarterback, into Ingleside. We'll see what happens. It'll be a good one. It's our game of the week.
So, yeah, just real quick talking about that. I'll talk about the West Oso and Ingleside when we preview that game. So the next game we have Moody over Carroll 41-17. So kind of a lopsided score on this one. Johnny and Gabriel both went with Carroll. So I like to go with the guys who picked the wrong team first. So Johnny, what do you got?
Man, I done gave up on Carroll. I was bragging about them at the beginning of the season.
Yep.
And I thought, well, you know what? I think this is it. I think this is the one. They're gonna do it. This is gonna do it. You know,
I was following
turnaround.
his lead. He's the reason why I'm so far behind right now. I took Carroll 2 weeks in a row behind listening to Johnny.
Yeah, Moody put up, they put up some numbers, man. They pretty well. They put 333 yards on the ground. Mm-hmm. That was wow. Daquan Lindsay had 23 carries for 136 yards, 4 touchdowns. And they had Nathaniel Seda, 11 carries for 125 yards himself. Mm-hmm. So the rest of them, they're just spreading around on the ground, man. They really didn't have a 200-yard rusher, for 333 yards on the ground. That's that's it, Carroll, man. I'm sorry. No more.
No, I understand. You felt like, and I know Gabriel said the same thing. That they were going to turn it around. Me and Steve and Gabriel won with Westo, so they were also not undefeated. They also hadn't won a game, and so I understand why you went with Carroll. You thought this was going to be the game that they could turn it around. So, it could have went either way. Moody came out to play. Moody just got whipped by GP. So, I mean, they came out to play. And that's what happened. But Gabe, you also went with Carroll.
Yeah, I felt Moody would win, but I wanted to see Carroll win. I wanted to see them get the win. And I thought if they were going to get a win this season, outside of Ray, because Ray gives Carroll the better chance of getting a win. But I thought that they could beat Moody or at least be competitive, and they were not. And the defense is awful. It can't hold anybody. It can't put 4 quarters of some really good football. I think what Carroll needs to do is they need to go back to the drawing board. In the last couple of years, I don't know, coaches leave or they get fired and they come back. Hopefully this coach will stick around with them. Hopefully Carroll, they hired him and give him the opportunity to change. It's not going to change it in 2-3 years. So I hope they give him an opportunity and hope every year, he because he's got to rebuild that program. That program is down. It's really down. And we always talk about here are some of the great players of Carroll. Listen, Carroll's always had good players, always. That goes way back to the 80s. They've always had good players. There's been talk that they go to vets. I don't know how true that is. Maybe there is some truth. Maybe there's not, if they've lost some players. But you got to play with what you have, and they got to build that program back up. So is this the right coach for Carroll? I don't know, but I hope they give him an opportunity more than 3 years to see what he can do, because every time you fire and bring in a coach, it's a whole new system, and it's just not working. You got to settle in, I think, in my opinion, with a coach and keep him in there. And you're probably going to take 2, 3, 4 year loss. But if you think that's the right coach, give him the opportunity to build it. So if this is the coach, hopefully he'll continue to get that opportunity. But you got to rebuild it from the ground up again, because it just seems like Carroll's really, really down this year like they have been before. So what's it going to take to get them up? I don't know. But I hope they do something. At least start being competitive and heading down the right direction. I think right now, they're just getting beat by everybody. And that's hard for the boys, for any team to get out there and continue to compete. So I'm talking about the Carroll boys. They're still going out there. They're playing for their alma mater in their school. But it's hard to stay positive when every week you're getting beat down. It just is. In basketball, softball, anything, it's hard to continue to try to do that. So those coaches got their work cut out for them. But I hope that they continue to play. There's still some football left in the season. And there's still that Ray game that I think they're probably pretty much the same. And hopefully Carroll can get a win over Ray. I like to see him win a game, or Ray too, because Ray's been down since, the last couple of years. So, Ray was a program that was also very good. So hopefully, we're talking about Carroll. Carroll can get a win here before the season, and something they can continue to build on for next year. But right now, it's looking really bad down there for the Tigers.
Yeah. I'll tell you what though. I don't think they're their new school has opened up yet. I think they're still building it. But I tell you what, when they build that new school, because this is what happened when Veterans Memorial opened. A lot of people wanted to go to the new high school. So I think that when Carroll, because that's an old school. It's a really old school right there on was it Weber? I think it is.
Looks like a
I
prison.
think when I think when they open up a new school, people are gonna want to go check it out. People are gonna want to enroll, and when you're in that area, I mean, you can really choose where you want to go. The boundaries are, kind of,
Flexible.
open, kind of, sort of. Uh, so I'm anxious to see what happens. I'm anxious to see if people move to the new school, because I think that's what happened because when Veterans Memorial opened, a lot of people from Carroll went there. A lot of people from King went there because King and Carroll are both really good in football and baseball.
Yeah.
10 years ago. You know what I mean? Uh, and then Veterans Memorial opens up. They're not allowed to play varsity sports their first year or 2 years or whatever it was. And then all of a sudden they're powerhouses. You know what I mean? So I think Carroll has a chance when that new school opens up. So I'm anxious to see what happens there. Steve, you were on the winning side of this pick. What were your thoughts on this game?
Well, I hate to beat a horse while it's down, but let's talk a little bit of the numbers and see how bad Carroll's been. So they're giving up a whopping 279 points in 6 games. They're averaging 46 points. They're giving up 46 points a game, which is, it's just tough to do. You can't do that and think you're going to win. But to back them up, the offense has been equally as bad. Only scoring 83 points in those same 6 games. So they're averaging 13 points a game right now. So, I think that they probably hit the bottom right here, and they could only go up, is what I'm thinking. And although, this season, maybe, kind of out of reach as far as making a run for the playoffs. But, hopefully these kids just the coaches plan from here on out says, hey, let's just focus on getting better as a unit as we move forward. And, let's finish the season on an uptick, right? That's what you want to do is when you're in a funk like this. And I've been in them, guys. I've been in seasons where we didn't win a game and didn't even get close of sniffing a game. And, then you just start, kind of playing for each other and trying to execute the plays right. And those are your victories, right? When you go, and you look at everything and you sit down and you look at film and like, okay, how well do we execute our game plan? I mean, we were on the losing side, but did we run the plays right, or were the kids there blocking? Did they miss their assignments and stuff like that? So, I think that's kind of going to be where Carroll's going to be here in the last few games. They've already got 4 games played in their district already, so they're a little different than where we are as far as where they're at. They're 0-4 in district play already. So, so unfortunately, they got a bye this coming week, but then they got vets coming in the week after. So that's not something that they got circled on their calendar, I'm sure. Moody, on the other hand, Moody's 2-1 in district play right now. They're giving up 113 points per game, 22 on an average, and they're scoring on an average 33 points a game. They scored 161. So I mean, they're playing well enough. They're doing good. They're getting some good wins when they got opponents where they can get wins. They're getting them in. But them too, this weekend they got a tough game, so they will be playing vets this week. So it'll be vets for Moody this week, and then the following week they have Carroll. So it's going to be a tough sled for them. I think vets just got a ton of firepower, and it's going to be a tough game for them. But hey, continued success. These guys are 2-1. You know what I'm saying? Who knows where the cards may lay? I know GP's making a run, but they might end up in there. They're right. They're all together. Is that right, Tony? Yeah. So we'll see what it do, right?
Yeah. I mean, their only loss, like, what are they? They're 4-1, right? I mean, their only loss was to GP. So Yeah, I mean they got a couple of tough games coming up with Flower Bluff. They got I think they have a bye as well. Then they got Flower Bluff and then Victoria West. And then they got King. I think they could beat King. And then Victoria East, who just got uh beat down by Victoria West, which is kind of goes against everything we've been talking about this season about those two schools. So anyways, yeah, so Moody has a chance to get in as a third or fourth seed. So we'll see how it plays out, how it unfolds. They got to win a few more games though. Um the next game that we have GP over Flower Bluff in a close one. Kind of close. 10 points. 37-27. GP gets the win on this one. On this one, Steve and I both picked GP, and Gabe and Z-Man went with Flower Bluff. I'm gonna go ahead and change it up, and I'm gonna go with somebody on the winning side first.
Yeah. Somebody who saw
What?
it coming, someone with some intuition, somebody that has got an eye for talent and skill. Nah, just kidding, guys.
What are your thoughts on
Hey,
this game?
hey, so GP came out on fire, right? I mean, Johnny texted the score. We were on the field doing our pregame show, and Gabriel leans over. He says, "Man, look at this score!" And I was like, "No way, that's a typo or whatever." And then the very next message he wrote, it was like, "This is not a typo." So he already knew what we were gonna think. So man, they jump out fast, dude. 37 points in the first quarter. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they blew their wad in the first quarter, but I mean, 37 points. You know what I'm saying? That's an amazing feat. Those guys must have come out of the locker room really fired up. I tell you, I mean, Bluff was I picked GP. I knew they were on a little roll, but I figured that this was going to be a tough game going in. Flower Bluff is they're a usual a right in. You know what I'm saying, in the playoff scene. You know what I'm saying. So I figured it was going to be a tough game, but it's hard to recover from that first punch, right? I mean, GP came out, punched him right in the mouth, 37 quick points, and it probably threw a shock in their system. Although they were able to shut them down the last three quarters, they didn't do anything after that. I want to say I just barely looked at it, and I want to say there were some turnovers, and that's what kind of got them in trouble. I'm not too sure. I might have been looking at another game, but all the stats weren't up when I started looking this morning. I know they came online like, I don't know, 2-3 o'clock or something like that when I finally but I didn't have time to sit down and take a good close look at everything. But so I got that. Let's see. Next thing. So they got Victoria West, their next game. They're 3-2. Their district record's 3-2. So that's going to be a pretty cool game right there. I mean, I had that one slated for the game of the week. I really wanted to see how that game. Well, I'm still going to watch it, but we're going to, we'll see how that goes. I mean, that's still Victoria West is coming off a pretty good win, impressive win that they won this week. So that's going to be a pretty good showdown. I'd like to see how those guys going to fare. I mean, GP's on a little roll, so hopefully they can keep it going. And they just, leapfrog, alert. They just leapfrog probably into the number 2 spot, and they're probably headed. They got their eyes on the 1. It's going to be a hard feat, but they definitely, huge improvement.
Yeah, well, they're not gonna be able to get one now unless Vets loses a couple of games because they already lost to Vets. But yeah, I know in the beginning of the season I talked about Flower Bluff, being number 2 in this district, and then GP goes out and beats them. You know what I mean? So they need to get through the east and the west of Victoria, and they can easily beat number 2. I mean, and how crazy would that be to go from a season like they had last year and then be number 2 in a tough 5A Division 1 district? You know what I mean? That would just be just unheard of turnaround, because they got the same players. These guys are young. They got a lot of juniors on this team and sophomores. They got a couple of seniors, but they got a lot of juniors and sophomores on this team. So this team will be back next year. So it's real interesting to see what's going on over there in GP. Gabe, what are your thoughts?
Well, Flower Bluff fumbled the ball a lot. They turned the ball over, and this is how GP got the big lead. So,
Okay.
you know, but look, let me go to Flower Bluff first. You got to play better. You can't turn the ball over. You're at home. You just lost to um, Victoria, Victoria School. You need to do better. The way Flower Bluff came out was horrible. They weren't ready. It seemed like they weren't prepared. It was a big game, and GP took advantage of that. So for Flower Bluff and your turnovers tells me this team is not playing at the level that we here on the Gridiron thought that they would be. Now, I still think this team is better than what their record shows. They're not playing that way, and I'm not sure that they're going to be bets in that final game. I mean, this team is not playing. The coach doesn't. He's got to be concerned, I would imagine, the way his team is coming out with the turnovers and they're playing because they're better than that. And you flip it over to the other side and GP takes advantage of it. You want to fumble the ball, we're going to show you what we can do with it. So they jumped out to a big lead, one that Flower Bluff, couldn't recover from. So right now, I'm looking at Flower Bluff. Yeah, I think they make it in maybe the 4th seed. I mean, yeah, I still think they'll make the playoffs, but yeah, I think they barely get in at the 4th slot. I think it'll be one of the Victoria schools in 3rd, because I don't think that unless Flower Bluff beats Betts, in the final game and the way it's looking now, I don't think that they will. So they're going to go in as a fourth place. I think Victoria will get into 3rd, and I think GP will slide in as 2nd with Betts, winning that district again. But a very disappointing season so far. It's not over yet. It's not out of the ordinary that Flower Bluff couldn't be Betts. I still think Flower Bluff could be Betts, and if they do, it just changes everything for them. But they're just not playing good ball. Whatever is happening down there in Flower Bluff, they're just not playing. Something's going on down there. You rarely see Flower Bluff play this poorly, and they still got a lot of talent. They've lost some last year, but they still got some talent there where they should be able to win and compete with Betts, and that's not happening. So I haven't seen one of their games this season and probably won't live. But it's just terrible to see the way they're playing. But on the other side for GP, man, they just keep, getting better every week and they're playing with confidence. And so, yeah, I think they got a really good chance to get to that 2nd seed. And once they get in there, they might be able to go 2 rounds into the playoffs, where it depends on where you sit. I think GP, if they go 2nd, they could win that 1st round. And the way they're playing, they could even probably win the 2nd. I mean, who knows? So Brent Davis and the GP Wildcats, he's doing a great job over there putting his system in, and he's showing right away what he's going to be doing when he gets here. And you talked about those players returning back. GP's going to be a very scary team next year. This year, forget next year. This year, they're scary.
Yeah. So it's going to depend a lot on what happens this week. Versus West. To see where Flower Bluff falls, because GP still has both Victoria schools, so if they could beat them both out, West goes to 3rd, Flower Bluff goes to 4th. But if both of those teams find a way to beat GP, GP still makes the playoffs, but they drop to 4, and Flower Bluff goes up to 3. So it just depends. I mean, there's still a lot of football left to play. It really is. We still got half a season to play. But GP is definitely steamrolling right now, and I'm just, like I said, I'm just in awe with the turnaround from last year to this year. It's just freaking been amazing. Johnny, did I already go to you on this game?
No, you did. No, you did.
Oh, go ahead, man. What do you got?
Yeah, those early turnovers really hurt Flower Bluff. Nash Bedias, he made an attempt to come back on this game. And that was a big deficit for him to come back. He still had 246 yards passing, with his 2 touchdowns. So, he made an attempt, but that was too big of a gap for him to catch up on, and GP was not slowing down themselves, the whole, you got to pretty well just shut it down to come back that big of a deficit, Brandon Redden for GP, he had 302 yards and 4 touchdowns. So, one team's trying to come back, but you have the other team just pulling away still, holding that ball, running that ball, you're passing that ball, so it's like if they didn't have those many turnovers at the beginning, who knows how that turnout would have been, but that was too big of a gap for them Florida to try to catch up on. But they did narrow it down a little bit, but not, completely all the way.
Yeah, it definitely got interesting there at the end. You know what I mean? Because they did score those 2 touchdowns in the fourth, which made it kind of close. And I was like, whoa, what's going on here? Because GP had such a big lead. So again, hats off to GP Gabe. We need to try to send another email out to that coach, try to get him on, man, because I know we had him slotted to come on a couple of weeks ago, and I really like to get a hold of him and really see what's going on over there. Next game I have was a big game, had district championship implications. Didn't fall in Taft's favor. But we have Odem over Taft, 28-7 in this game. The traders, Steve and Z-Man have Odem, and me and Gabriel are still hanging tight with Taft, win or lose. So I'm gonna go ahead and go to one of you guys first and let us know what led you to pick Odem over Taft. Steve, what do you got?
Yeah, I'll jump in there first. So at some point, I looked over at Gabriel, and Gabriel's eyes were saying, "Yeah, I'm in it to win it." Right? Gabriel picks winners. Right? He's been picking winners, and he's been picking winning teams. So I was like, okay, I got to take something from this guy and try to figure it out and see what he's doing, right? So he went with Odem right here, and he took the loss. So, and that's kind of where I was doing, right? Early in the season, my gut told me that Alice was going to have a great year. I spent two weeks picking Alice in a row, and I got 2 losses back to back. And then off of Johnny's lead, again with Carroll, 2 weeks in a row, I went with Johnny's lead, and I picked Carroll. Hence the 5 games back. So now I'm picking winners, baby, and I'm on my way back up. I've had 2 weeks. I think the week before last and this week, I was the top win getter, right? Last week, I took a little break and try to let you guys get a little lead. So I'm starting to figure myself out here. So I kind of like that, I let you guys get out and then I reel you back in. I let y'all get out a little bit and I reel you back in. So Odem, all right? Odem's on a 6-game winning streak right now. They're playing super well. Hunter Dawson as their QB. He had 15 carries for 92 yards and a touchdown. Marcus Martinez chipped in with 15 carries of his own, 84 yards and a touchdown. And Mark Moreno had 8 carries, 78 yards and a touchdown. But the big difference in this game was Odem's defense. Odem's defense came to play and effectively shut down Taft's offense. JJ Acosta played his heart out. The kid went 19 for 27 for 225 yards passing and had 14 carries for 80 yards rushing. So, JJ brought his A game as usual, the way what he usually brings to the game. But they pretty much limited everything else. Odem pretty much took over in every other aspect there. So their defense, let's see, they had 8 tackles for loss, had 3 sacks, and 3 pass defenses. You know what I'm saying? So and effectively, like I said, shut down Taft. So those boys came out to play. They held a really strong rushing attack. That Taft usually brings. They held him to 96 yards. And what's Johnny's rule of thumb? You keep him under 200, you're going to win the game. So 96 yards, they held him 96 yards to rushing. So, they really came to play. I think they probably had heard enough about, we're coming, here we go. And they're going, what I'm saying? Don't get me wrong. But, Odem really just came to play. And on this particular night, Taft fans, I reiterate, on this particular night, Odem was the better team. Not saying that Taft isn't a great team, but on this night, Odem really came out to play, and it showed on the scoreboard.
I just want to second what you said. Acosta did have a really good game, but he's going to need a little bit of help. You know what I'm saying? Odom's a tough opponent. They have been battling in the same district for a while as well. And when we talked to Coach Castellano, he said it's there's some mental things that they got to get over every time they play Odom. And Costa was in the zone. Shoot, he racked up the numbers. You know what I mean, offensively. But Taft's still not out. You know what I'm saying? Taft's still not out. Odom still has a tough game against Hebronville, which will shake the tree a little bit depending on how that plays out. But anyways, great game. It was 7-7 at half. It was a great game. Odom just opens it up in the second half and really pulls away. But that first half, it must have had fans on the edge of their seat. Let's see, Johnny, you were the other one who picked Odom. What led you to go with Odom? What were your thoughts? Did you just think Odom was going to win? Taft had been doing good. They lost to a tough Hebronville team last week. What made you go with Odom?
I just see Odom having a stronger team, stronger season this year. Then I'm kind of going back to last year, how Taft started off the way they did this year, and when they came to Odom, they just wasn't there for them again last year. So this is what I was kind of anticipating. Odom having a big year, Taft having that big year, but Taft having that loss last week. Again, I think that happened last year, and then the game right back to back. I might be mistaken. I didn't look back on that, but this is where Taft kind of fell apart, after the big start last year. So this is what I was looking at, at this game, and I Odom, on a run, so I couldn't just go against them, so maybe their little blackout had to do something with that, There was a 2-hour light delay. They had the lights go out there in their stadium for 2 hours. So that game lasted over 4 hours, so could have had a little effect to Taft, so you never know on something like that, sitting around, waiting around for 2 hours for the lights to get fixed, so I know Steve ran down some of the stats as far as the total stats. I kind of gonna do the same thing, but I'm gonna put it like in a perspective that like it kind of stands out a little bit, which both teams had a little offense going on, but both teams had a little defense going on too. What I'm talking about is Taft only had 96 yards rushing, as Steve said, but Odem had 254 yards rushing. JJ had 225 yards passing, but Odem only had 39 yards passing. So it's like lopsided one way or the other. So that was just a different way of putting that. One team outran the other one, the other team outpassed the other one. And it's like not even close on the opposite. With the same stats. Rushing or passing. So I kind of had to put that in a different way like that, just to show like that. But hey, like you said, Taft ain't out, they're in this, but I just had that vibe that what was going to happen like it happened last year.
I think, but to Steve's point, I think it was defensively where Odem really stood out because you're absolutely right on the offensive side of the ball, but you look at tackles for a loss. Taft only had one. I think one or two, but very, very few tackles for a loss. You know what I mean? When your defense is not getting back there and causing trouble, and the other team's running the ball, it's demoralizing. It's demoralizing to go 4 quarters and the other team's moving the ball on the ground on you and you can't stop them. You know what I'm saying? It's real easy for a team who's throwing the ball to get a big play, and move the ball. But when another team just keeps running and running and running and you can't stop them, it's kind of demoralizing. And then, the lighting, that might have had an effect. It might have had an effect on the momentum of Taft. You know what I'm saying? It was 7-7 at halftime. I'm not really sure at what quarter the lights went out, but I imagine that that might have been a factor, and that might have been a factor in the Flower Bluff GP game. That they moved the game up.
Yeah, the 5 o'clock.
So it just we really don't know. But either way, both teams shined offensively. It's just defensively where I think Odem really showed the biggest difference. Gabriel, what are your thoughts?
Odom's not that good, guys. Don't be praising these guys. My source tells me that Taft had 4 touchdowns called back in that game after the halftime. 4 touchdowns were called back. So if Taft gets those 4 calls, it's a different game. And this guy told me, he showed me a video where the running back gets him. He's trying to get to the outside, and the defense has him. And I don't know if it was that number 58. I think it was. So he strips the ball. They held him up. He takes the ball and he runs in to the score. And they said his momentum had stopped and his legs were still going. I saw the video. So I think it's a bunch of crap. Not because my family's from Taft, man, but
hey, that's not a penalty. That's a judgmental call. You can't argue.
Yeah, but that's what the problem is.
Rockport in the playoffs. It happened to Rockport in the playoffs.
But let me tell you guys, but that judgmental call is what's bad because everybody sees it different.
But you saw a replay. You saw a replay. They don't see replays. They see fast action quick.
And that's the problem with high school is that if the 4 of us are refs, right, we're all going to see it different. There needs to be consistency to the rule. You can't just, it's a judgment call because we all see it different. We can all see the same thing. Look, man, we talked about this affects a game. This was a regular season game, but last year, a lot of plays we saw in Navajo that affected Rockport from moving on. It is what it is, but you got to try to fix these things because it causes one team to lose. Look, that back pass last year to Rockport, I saw it. You guys saw it. It was definitely a fumble, and they called it. You can't do that. You got to get it right. If you call 1 touchdown back, just fine. You call 4 touchdowns back, 4 back, and you're in Odem. There might be something there. So what I'm saying is Taft lost 28-7, but they scored 4 times. So I'm not so sure that Odem is that much better than Taft. The scoreboard will say it is. They lost, the week before, the very end of the game. If I'm Taft and Coach JR, I'm saying, listen, we know what happened in Odem. We can take the loss. We know what happened. We're still right with these guys as far as we're concerned. Like coaches Bella and Ilzon say, you got to have amnesia, right? Forget it, move on, finish it up, get into the 3rd round. The 3rd place team, and let's go. So I'm not so sure that Odem is that much better, but it is. I wasn't at the game. I just saw 1 video, 2 videos, and the source, if he's telling me correctly, said that Taft had 4 touchdowns called back, and they were at a 7-7 at halftime. So then there's a light. I think the light though affects both teams. It's like if you're playing in the snow, it affects both teams. Now one team may have the advantage, right? But that light in those 2 hours, I think Odem had the same problem with their players walking around like Rockport. Like Taft. So I don't think the lights had that big of an issue because the other team had to do the same thing. They had to wait out there. But those 4 touchdowns, man, I went there. But I saw that one video. Boy, that dude just came and they held him up and they stripped it and he takes off. And then they come back, I guess, and they said something to, I guess, he wasn't on the ground. So the only thing I could think of is they stopped the momentum and they took that touchdown away. But those are the plays that take the momentum away. So Odem wins. I'm just not sure they're that much better than Taft. Hopefully these 2 teams will see each other again. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I didn't know that and I didn't hear that. But
and this is according to my source. I don't have it. That's just what my source told me.
What I tell you, it's just what I got. 96 rushing yards. 80 of them belong to the quarterback. So that means only 16 yards from the other guys. And Tony touched on it. Acosta's great. He's awesome. You know what I'm saying? He's a world-class guy, but he can't do it on his own. So those boys need to, step up and rally behind him and catch up with him because right now he needs the help. So, if you go back to that, if you go back to the numbers, those are, if they're busted plays or whatever, or when did they? The one was a defensive play, right? The one was a defensive play. But you're saying that the long touchdowns, because that was the one thing I looked at that they didn't have. They were missing the big play, right? We went down there and watched them, and I seen lots of big plays, chunk yards, and they weren't getting them in chunk yards. You know what I'm saying? Their biggest play, their biggest pass play was for 20 yards. You know what I'm saying? And that didn't happen When I went down there and seen them, those boys were breaking tackles and they were ripping them off. So that's one thing that they were missing. They were missing that big play, and then not enough rushing attack. You know what I'm saying? So,
but as well as I know that you can win multiple other games without running the ball. You can pass, and Johnny just said the amount of passing Taft had versus Odem's passing. So the running is good, but they were able to pass the ball. They were still able to move that ball with the pass with over the 200 yards that they got versus Odem.
But Acosta he only threw the one touchdown yard. So it's one thing to move the ball and get yards throwing the ball, but you got to cross that white line. So
that's what I'm saying. But
the yards got to transfer over to points at some point.
Right. But in this, you're absolutely right. But in this game, your defense gets you a couple of touchdowns. And you know as well as I do, because we've talked about it. Doesn't matter what you do, as long as you get that ball across. If that's with your special teams and that's with your defense, at the end of the day, we all know here you win. So I'm not saying that they were able to get the run. Obviously, Odem's defense stopped them, but they were able to get other touchdowns, whether through your defense or through your special teams. It could have won them that game. And when you have 4 touchdowns, if what my source said is correct, and you get them called back, that has an effect on your team. They were able to find other ways. And that's something that Coach Castellano said. He said, listen, I don't have the biggest guys, but they find their gritty and they find ways to score that touchdown, whether it's through your special teams or through your defense. And it's just about winning that game. We knew Odem was the better team. They had been the most dominant team, but it seems to me at a 7-7 at halftime, that Taft defense was able to stop that running attack from Odem for at least 2 quarters. And then if you get 4 touchdowns, whether like I saw one through the defense, and what he's saying, you get 4 touchdowns called back. And I don't know how the other 3, if that was through special teams, man, that hurts. And all you're trying to do is get that win, even if it's a 1 point. So Odem is definitely they got the better defense, but man, I think Taft is not, I don't think Odem is still that much better than Taft, but I didn't go to the game. So I'm just going by what my source said.
Yeah. No, I'm gonna agree with you, Gabe. As far as the whole points thing, we've all been at a game where we don't feel called win our way. But I wasn't there to make that judgment myself.
Yeah.
So, but just to what Steve's point is, I mean, the big, like I said a little while ago, the biggest difference is defense. I mean, they didn't have one guy who had more than 6 tackles on the Taft team. They didn't have one guy that had more than 6 tackles. I mean, you got to have one guy with at least 10, showing out. You know what I mean? And they didn't have that Friday, and they only had 2 tackles for a loss. I mean, it's really hard to win games when, I mean, you're not pushing the offense back, and that didn't happen. So,
I mean, look, Tony, look, check it out. If Rockport's defense don't come to play, how many yards did Sinton have over Rockport? Rockport really couldn't move the ball against Sinton. Choopy and them, you had to break some tackles. But look at that. We stayed in that game because of our defense against Sinton. Our offense struggled terribly on the pass and in the run, the way we're used to moving that ball and getting those yards. But that defense for Rockport came to play, and that's what kept us in the game. And it was just that one big play that Lou got, that got us right back in that game. Outside of that, we really didn't do much on offense. Rylan, Galvan, and Renee got most of those yards. Our offense on the running attack, something that we do a lot, couldn't do it, but we didn't get blown out because it's our defense that was there that was holding those guys. And we ended up losing 28-21. So what I'm saying is it's not always the offense. If you look at the stats we're sitting, they're going to say somebody didn't go to the game, man, these dudes ran. But it was our defense that stood up, and it was our defense that gave us the opportunity to win that game. So, it's not always about the offense. It's about the defense or special teams or field goal kicker like Johnny's always talking about. I mean, these guys, it's great, man. So, sometimes it's bad. I mean, I still think Odem was the better team. I just don't think they're that much better than Taft. And Taft's going to be able to prove it once they get in the playoffs. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. I think Taft is definitely gonna make some noise in the playoffs for sure. I mean, this Odem game is behind them. The Hebronville game's behind them, and I don't see another team taking them out the rest of the season. So they're gonna win out the season, and all they need to concentrate. If I'm Coach Castellano, All I'm concentrating on here on out is just preparing for the playoffs.
That's all. Yeah, games are over. We got to move forward. Yeah.
Executing plays, working on the execution, and fixing the problems, fixing the issues that you're having, if it's defensively or getting another guy hot, get another running back hot, these next 3 games or 4 games or whatever they got left, because they're gonna need more people on offense, but that defense is gonna have to they're gonna have to have a game where they show out. Anyway, so the next game we have the London Pirates versus the Lyford Bulldogs, and this one London takes it 41-26. Gabriel is the only one that went with London. The rest of us went with Lyford. This one could have gone either way. Both teams have winning records. London was 4-0. Lyford was 4-1. So this could have went either way. Steve, what are your thoughts?
Well, I tell you, I still haven't found anything on London. I mean, other than their record, right? So they're 2-0, and they're on a five game winning streak. That's the only thing that I could find stats wise on London for this game. Now Lyford, I was able to dig up a few stats. So Omar Martinez went 10 for 20 with 139 passing yards, 22 carries for 160. He had 3 touchdowns in the game, but he also had 2 picks. So that didn't help his cause out there. So let's see. This is another game that I saw that they didn't have a lot of big plays. I looked at all their their receivers, their running backs, to see who was the big yard gatherer or whatever, what I'm saying, and nobody really stood out. They really didn't have a big game offensively. So I guess basically what it looks like is the quarterback show down there for Lyford. So it looks like Osmar. It's Osmar, not Omar. Osmar Martinez is the bread and butter for those guys down there, and had 411 total yards, and that's what I was able to dig up, and but didn't get any big plays, no big chunk plays. So that's all I had on them. This was kind of a coin toss for me. I just solely based it off their record. They both had good records, right, going in, but I thought Lyford had the better win, so I went with them. So yeah, took another L there.
I'm looking at the same thing you're looking at, and I tell you what, the quarterback had 139 yards passing, 160 yards rushing, and he had 15 yards receiving. I don't know, he threw himself a pass. I don't know how that worked out.
No, yeah,
they don't show no one else passing the ball, so I don't know how we did that, but it happened somehow. But so it looked like he was the main offender over there in Lyford. Johnny, what are your thoughts on this game?
I can't remember why I picked Lyford, but I know I picked Lyford. I was trying to look back at my notes, I couldn't find it. Yeah, I guess we could say London has a couple of standouts on their team. For this game, the quarterback, I guess, is one of those kind of like a cool stuff from Taft. His name's Ace. Now, I don't even know how to say this. Ace Navarro. Ace Navarro. It went 8 for 17 on the pass, 115 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, and he's also a rusher. He had 20 rushes for 92 yards and 3 touchdowns. He scored 5 touchdowns this game. Then their other running back, his name is Mason Arispe. He had 14 carries for 141 yards, and he had the other touchdown on their list. So 2 players here that we haven't heard about. Maybe they are somebody over there that's standing out over there. Mr. Ace and Mason Arispe. You got a quarterback that runs and throws, and you got a running back on 14 carries, 141 yards. That's pretty impressive.
Gabe, you're the only one that picked London. So what are your thoughts?
Well, I just thought that I liked the way they played. I mean, Lyford's just as good, so it's like a toss up. I mean, this could have gone either way, but I just like London's play better. I had seen a little bit more of London than Lyford. I just known Lyford through, playoffs, and I know they've got a strong program out there. But I just saw London; they're closer to home, and I saw what these guys were doing, and I just kind of just liked what they were doing, and I thought that they could move the ball better. But at the end of the day, I thought it could have gone either way. It was more of just I'm gonna go with London. They're closer. I didn't know much about Lyford. I seen what they had a little bit, not a lot, and I liked it. And I thought that they could move the ball on Lyford. And they've got a lot of good athletes over there too, Tony. Over in London, we don't talk a lot about them. They're known for baseball, obviously, for what they did last year. But that football team quietly moves up. So I thought it could have gone either way. Just my gut told me that London would win this game. Didn't know if that was going to happen because Lyford's got a good program out there in the end. London, got the win. They play this week. It might be the other way around. Lyford's no joke out there either. So that's why I went with them. But I think we need to look out for London. But I think this team is going to make some.
I remember why I went for Lyford. I was looking at London, who they had played. They were 4-0 going into that game. But two of their wins were against the same team. They only played, John Paul. So I'm like, you can't count that as another win. You already beat them once, so I counted another win. You're
double dipping.
Exactly. So that I knew there was a reason. Some odd reason on that one.
And I'll tell you guys, I make the picks like that too. I look at the schedule. I think one of you guys, I don't know if it was Steve or you, Johnny, that said, or maybe it was Tony. We tend to put a lot on those schedules, but I think one of you guys said it's who you pick, right? I mean, you play who's in front of you, right? So how much does that really determine how good you are? I know I do too. I look at the schedule and I'm like, look, but it's not the team's fault who they play, right? I mean, that's who they play. It doesn't define whether they're good or not. But when they play another team, like if you have like London that plays like John Paul, then you have Lyford that plays a good, team and they beat them, then you're more likely to go that way, man. But one thing I've learned, is like these teams, you never know what you're going to get. A team that should win loses. But it's. I mean, look at this week, man. Look how bad we picked. We thought that Flower Bluff was going to win. They lost. It was a terrible week. So it's hard. I mean, you can look at the stats and all you want, but at the end of the day, man, you just don't know. You just don't know. Especially when you don't follow like London. Like we don't follow London. By now, I think we know GP a little bit better because we're talking about them a lot. So we're starting to see. But London, we don't ever talk about London or Bishop, So you're just going by gut instinct and a couple of things you see. And most of the time we get them wrong.
So the seventh game we have the Bishop Badgers versus SGA. And this one, Bishop. Oh man, did I write that down wrong? What
Santa Gertrudis won, you said, right?
Bishop got the
Bishop got the win.
Bishop got the win.
That's right.
That's right. Bishop wins 23-8. We all picked SGA. That's why I was confused. Yeah, so we all picked SGA and we didn't get that pick. But Bishop wins 23-8. So we all picked wrong on this one. That's kind of unusual that we all picked the wrong team. So I'm gonna go to you, Steve. What do you think happened here?
Well, I think because I know I missed on Bishop. I had my brother-in-law's from Bishop, and he called me and he told me about it. But they just hadn't. They weren't putting up the numbers, man. Honestly, that's what I told him in that same tone. I said, "Bro, y'all just ain't scoring enough points down there." And I couldn't pick with them. So and Bishop's another one like London. I didn't find anything on this game, but I was able to dig up some stuff on Kingsville. So Dominic Garcia went 14 for 21 for 142 yards. It looks like Tony Benitez, 4 carries for 47 yards with a touchdown. As a team, they had a total of 121 rushing yards, and that was a total of 6 guys, I think, if I counted wrong. Yeah, and then 54 of them came from one guy, Adrian Garcia. Gosh, I don't know. I can't read my own handwriting. Gonzalez. I'm sorry, Gonzalez. So he had 51 of the yards in 10 carries. So that's what I was able to dig up on Bishop and SGA. But as a good win for Bishop, you know what I'm saying? I mean, they needed it. I mean, it moves them to 1-1, right? Evens them out, and it gives them a shot. You know, they're still in it. So we'll see how the rest of the season pans out for those guys.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, the reason I picked against Bishop is because, you know, the three games going into last Friday, I mean, they got shut out 21-0 to San Diego. They lost to Skidmore 7-6, and then they lost to Odem 35-7. So it was really hard to go with Bishop. You know, going into week 6 against Gertrudis. So man, that's why I went with SGA. But anyways, Johnny, what are your thoughts on this game?
That's what I was going on by too, Tony. I was all like, these guys can't put up no points. I mean, here we are. They scored the whole entire points pretty much in one game than they are the entire season. You know, so and basically that's why I think, you know, Santa Gertrudis is like, you know, I think this is a win for them. You know, we're kind of talking negative about them a couple podcasts ago about, you know, they're only a baseball, softball program. And I was like, oh, man, you know, I think they got a football win this time. But Bishop kind of like shut them up a little bit, you know. A lot of those kids from SGA are actually from Kingsville, you know, so that's why the Kingsville program's down. So Santa Gertrudis pretty well took all those Kingsville Brahmas over there. So Bishop put it on in the second half. They outscored them 23-0 in the second half, you know, so Bishop pretty well finished it off. They know how to finish it off, surprisingly, not being able to score the last few games, but they sure knew how to finish this game off.
Gabe, what are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I don't got much to say. I didn't know much about Bishop, Santa Gertrudis. We had him on a couple of times, but yeah, we'll see what Bishop has. I mean, this win that they have, can they build on this? And maybe they can. I know a few years ago, they had a really good quarterback out there. Yeah, I don't think they're as good as they were then, but you know, this is a good win for them. So we'll see what happens. I mean, I didn't really know much about either one. I didn't know anything about Bishop this year. I really didn't do any research on them, but great win for them, and you know, we'll keep an eye on them and see what they do. They're on our schedule, so we'll see what happens with teams that they play and see if this team can make it into the playoffs.
So before we get to our state game, we got our game of the week, and we don't need to spend a whole lot of time. Just tell me briefly, because we do got this on Wednesday. Where we'll get more in detail, but just tell me what your thoughts are in the 28-21 win over Rockport. We got the Sinton Pirates 28 and Rockport Pirates 21. Steve, so like I said, we got to break this game down all the way down on Wednesday. Briefly tell me what your thoughts are, what you thought about this game.
Briefly. Man, that's gonna that'll be a tough shoe. But I understand we got a lot to cover, and we are going to go in depth in this game on Wednesday. So I'll do my best. So it looked like both offenses kind of stumbled out of the gate. Neither one, you know, kind of set the tone early. They both had 2 early picks. They were both in the red zone a couple of times and didn't turn them into points. So you know, I think the hype of the game, you know, was a bit much to start the game out. But both defenses were playing extremely well too. You know, you got to take your hat off to both defenses. They both came out to play. I think offensively, they were just. It kind of looked like schematically they were both trying to outdo one another. And those were the early struggles. And then there was the one who went back to the bread and butter quicker is the one who came out, you know, victorious. So, you know, I mean, I learned a lot from the game, watching the tape afterwards and commentating the game upstairs. That was lots of fun and pretty exciting. And like Gabriel, I didn't get my voice back until probably like Sunday night, where I could hear myself. But it's tons of fun. It was a great, exciting game. It's what I expected. I kept saying that on there. This is exactly what we all expected: a showdown between two powerhouses in the district, and it lived up to the hype. They did not disappoint.
Absolutely. It was definitely a game that I know those seniors will remember forever.
Sure.
One of the things that I'll say, just so I can move on, is that we said this when we were previewing the game last week. Doesn't matter what the outcome of this game is. Both these teams are great teams, and both of these teams are going to make noise in the playoffs. One of them had to win. You know what I mean? They took a chance in the last 35 seconds, and it worked out in their favor. You know what I mean? So, if it was up to Coach Seibert, he'd have done the same thing. He would have went for it and try to get the win like Troutman did. So I mean, it was a good game. It was a defensive game, definitely a defensive game. I know the score really doesn't say that. 28-21. We're talking about 49 points, but it was a defensive game nonetheless. Both Galvan boys were under 100 yards rushing, which probably doesn't normally happen for them. So passing was the difference. Passing was the difference. We knew Sinton could pass, and we talked about this early on about how well could we cover it, and we did a good job early on, but it got us in the end. So, anyways, I don't want to elaborate too much more on the game. Johnny, what do you got?
What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do a little different. I'm not gonna put my thoughts on the game. I'm just gonna throw the stats out there, just like I do the regular breakdown with every other game. Then I throw my thoughts about the game, when we do our regular one. But this was a good game. Some stats that stood out, of course, your Galvan brothers, Rene Galvan, as Tony was saying, held him under 100 yards rushing. He only had 82 yards on 21 carries, but he still had 2 touchdowns. He was still 18 or 27 in the air for 201 yards and 2 touchdown passes also. While his brother had 15 carries and 90 yards on the ground. Like you were saying, their standout receiver was got Pryatt. Excuse me, I didn't say that right. He had 8 receptions for 94 yards. So he was real killing us in our secondary.
What's his number?
John Shupe still had the 100 yards on the ground. There was 17 carries. But the only thing is this: 17 carries for 100 yards for John Shupe. And the only thing is, Sinton came out and had a game plan for our slot offense. We had 31 carries, but only had 116 yards rushing. So that was huge. So again, I'll throw my thoughts about that game when that thing comes up. But I did pick Sinton, by the way.
Why would you say that?
Oh my God. Yeah, well, you know what? He wasn't on air. So it's only fair for him to call himself out, because he wasn't on air when he picked him. Because remember, we took his pick afterwards because he missed that day. So and I'm glad he's being honest. Gabriel?
Well, before I try to talk a little bit about the game, it's a podcast, and Johnny's got to be. I know he loves Rock, but this pick doesn't say anything about him. I know that he's a big Pirate fan. He's shown that throughout the years. But on the podcast, he's got to, we all got to, right, really look at it. Hopefully people won't criticize when we don't pick against Rockport. But he's doing exactly what we want on this podcast. He's looking at the numbers. He's looking at the teams. And he's got to make his pick. And that's what makes podcasting, So when you guys go against the grain, right, it's kind of hard because we know people are going to look at us in town. But I like what he does. He looks at the numbers, he does the research, and no big on Rockport. It's just, this is who I think. And I think that makes for good podcasting. So hey man, I know I give you a hard time, but I'm glad you Johnny, I'm glad that you.
I picked him, but I was good for us to win. I did it against the Miller game last year. I think Miller we won, so I was kind of hoping the same thing.
Yeah. But back to the game, man. Listen, I first of all, Coach Robbins on the Rockport side, man, what a hell of a game plan. Look, those boys, he had them prepared. Those guys were prepared. It's not easy to stop, that Sinton offense. And what they did, that front seven, and the whole defense, man, it was good. And they did it for 4 quarters. Galvan got away a little here and there, but nothing to what they're accustomed to doing. So, my hats off to Coach Robbins and that whole defensive staff, man. It was hard for 4 quarters, but those boys looked prepared. Joe Moreno and those lines, they looked prepared. They knew exactly what they were going to do. Philip Group on that outside, they knew exactly what Sinton wanted to do, and they were right there. And Joe Moreno said, when we had him on Wednesday, he said, "Hey, I'm ready for him." So just a great defensive effort, and they were prepared for Sinton. And then, of course, the same thing. Both defenses did good on the Sinton side. We'll talk more about it, man. I like. I've had time to kind of listen and see where we were coming. And sometimes you got to change your offense. And I think that's what Jay Cyber was doing, was trying to catch him off guard. He knew they were going to come heavy against the run. So he tried to do something different, and I applaud him for that. It didn't work out. But, if it works out, we're talking a different game. But it happens. So we'll talk more about it. But overall, it's a great game. I felt bad that we lost that Friday. When I woke up Saturday, I was like, listen, 2 great ball clubs. This doesn't say anything about either one. It could have gone either way. They got the break. They threw the pass. They got it. Hey, you know what? Ricky Franks just comes back next week. It's over. Forget about it. Don't harp on it. We got a lot of football left, and just keep playing. We need him to be, we need him to play. We need to get, he's got to have his head in the game. So that's over with. If you meet him again, you meet him again. Now it's every week we move up. We get into the playoffs. We continue to try to get better offensively and defensively and get ready for the playoffs. And I think Rockport's got a good chance of winning out. And, of course, we'll break it down more on Wednesday. But one of the best games I anticipated was going to be good, and it was great.
Yeah, now both Sinton and Rockport still have to play Ingleside, who is still undefeated. And
True.
though I don't think Ingleside has played near as tough a schedule as Rockport and Sinton have, their numbers are saying that they're good. You know what I mean? Their numbers are saying that they're doing some things over there in Ingleside. So it's interesting to see how the rest of the season plays out when both Rockport and Sinton have to face Ingleside, and see what happens in those
Hey,
games.
Tony, who does Ingleside play first, Rockport or Sinton?
Yeah, us.
We play
homecoming.
Rockport. We play
Next
Rockport
week,
homecoming next week.
Next week.
Okay.
So, yes, sir. So that completes the eight games in our area. Then we got a state game on this one. The Katy Tigers over Katy Tompkins, 56-21. We all picked Katy Tigers on this game. I mean, really, realistically, there are both some pretty good teams out of Katy. But when you look at strength of schedule and you look at numbers, Tigers was going to win this game. I don't think Tompkins had a chance. And, the numbers, the score says the same thing. I don't know if y'all want to go and just breeze by this game. Tell me what your thoughts are, Steve.
Yeah, we're going to have to do the breeze by because, for my part, because I got nothing. I got the win. I picked the right team. But I'm not going to lie. I just followed what you guys did on that pick. You know what I'm saying? I mean, both of those teams, I don't know. I guess you could say it's a little bit out of my my interest zone. Like I'm not too interested on what those guys are doing out there. I hate to say that, but I did anyway. Yeah. So I mean, I honestly, I just rode with what you guys picked on that one. So it's not fair for me to roll out their numbers. I really don't believe in it.
All right, Johnny, what are your thoughts?
Actually, I had picked this, and I wish I had picked the better one because this one was pretty obviously lopsided game. I didn't think it was going to be something like that. I like to see teams like this because once the districts are over, these are the teams that we're going to be looking at as the playoffs start.
Really?
So it's not only the 4A classification. We're gonna, as the teams go on, they're going to get eliminated, and little by little, you know, these teams are going to start popping out on us. But Katy scored 35 points in that second quarter, you know, to put the game away. I mean, here's some. This I just had to throw this out there because Katy had some remarkable numbers. They had 367 yards passing, 268 yards rushing, for 635 yards total yards. You know, their quarterback Caleb Koger, he only completed 14 passes out of 17 for 334 yards and 5 touchdowns. I mean, this is another state-ranked team. This ain't no mediocre Robstown, you know. The running back, Seth Davis, had 16 carries for 205 yards for 2 touchdowns. You know, I just had to throw that out there. You don't see numbers like that quite often around high school, especially 2 state-ranked teams.
Yeah.
Johnny, what was the score? Tony, what was the final score?
56-21.
Yeah, and Tompkins only had 78 yards rushing. That's with four guys running the ball. That's 18, 22, 28 attempts. They only had 78 yards rushing. So yeah, it was a
Katie's just nasty, man. Dang.
Just like
and like Johnny said, both teams were state ranked. I mean, dang, I didn't write it on here. I know Tigers were 6-0, 5-0, and Tompkins was 5. They were both 5-0.
Wow. Well,
yeah.
5-0 versus 5-0. So
they're
could've went
far
either way.
behind the Katy Tigers, man. No, well, I go Katy Tigers because they're Katy Tigers. I mean, you see Katy Tigers, and you don't have to look at nothing. I'm going with Katy Tigers. I mean, I saw this game when it was up there, and right away I'm going Katy. I didn't have to look at nothing because you just don't bet against Katy. It's almost like Carthage, right? You don't bet against those guys, right? I mean, they're kind of crazy unless you have something that nobody else knows. You go with Carthage and Katy, so that's why I went with them. You know, I didn't really look at the numbers, guys, but it was just great, man. I think this next one, though, this next state game is going to be a hell of a lot better.
Yep. So that completes our breakdown from week 6. Are we going straight into the other one? Taking a break?
Well, I'll go with whatever you guys want. I mean,
Go
if you want to
straight
go,
into it,
we'll go straight into okay. So now we're going into week 7. So that completes week 6 predictions. We're going into week 7. First game we got on. We got Robstown, 2-3 Robstown versus 2-3 Raymondville. Steve, who do you got?
I'm gonna take Robstown on this one.
All right. Any particular reason why?
I honestly, I mean, I'm telling you, and hopefully, eventually, we get some viewers down in the valley. But right now, I'm just gonna speak my mind. I really just don't see anything coming out of the valley. I don't think. I think the only wins they get is gonna be against themselves. I think everybody. I said this last week. I think everybody that we got down here in the Corpus Christi area will go down there and beat them. And that's I'm saying Robstown too. So I'm looking at Robstown to win this game.
Port Isabel already beat Robstown in week 1 district play. Port Isabel beat a 54-40 or something like that.
Yeah.
They put up 40 points, but I mean they did end up with the win. Okay, so I got you down for Robstown. Johnny, who do you got?
I'm also going to go with Robstown.
Ooh.
I'm going with that because Robstown scored 40 points on Port Isabel. Raymondville only scored 22 points on Port Isabel.
That's right. Tell him, Johnny.
All right. Gabe?
Well, the first half Raymondville played is pretty tough, right? But I thought it was more of Rockport than Raymondville actually stopping us. You know, it's hard for me to pick Robstown. I don't know when the last time I picked Robstown. I don't think I ever have, to be honest with you. So it's kind of strange to have taken Robstown. Raymondville has a lot of tradition up there, but you know, the one thing that does catch your mind is they scored 40 on Port Isabel. Now, I wish I would have been at that game to have been able to see it so I could put more thought. I don't know, man. I know we talk about the Valley's they're definitely not as tough as they have been in the past, but they got a lot of tradition out there. They play hard. Is this game going to be in Robstown or Raymondville?
It will be in Raymondville.
I'm going with Raymondville.
So let me help you out with some
No,
stats
no,
for
no. Don't let
Robstown.
Jake.
Huh?
I'm going-
You already
I'm
said
going-
Raymondville.
Don't let him change.
I'm going with Raymondville too, even though I know
Yeah.
these stats. I'm gonna go ahead and say these Robstown stats. They got 3 running backs. Well,
Who's this? Robstown?
one of them's a quarterback. One of them's a quarterback. They got 2 running backs. One of them, this Valles Jr. has 531 yards rushing on the season already. The quarterback has 162 yards rushing on the season already. And they got another running back, Rodriguez, might be a receiver who ran the ball with 291 yards. And they got 9 touchdowns on the ground. So they're producing some touchdowns over there. 5 touchdowns in the air. So Robstown's got a little offense going on.
How about their
We'll see.
defense?
Defensively,
How impressive is their defense?
oh, let me see. Let's see. They got a standout. Lampkin got 28 total tackles. 3 tackles for a loss. They got a Gonzalez. He's got 4 tackles for a loss. 21 tackles on the season. Sanchez got 3 tackles for a loss. 26 total tackles. I mean, they got some tackling machines over there. They got 12 sacks on the year. 12 sacks.
Should be a good one.
12 sacks. I'm kind of thinking if I want to change my pick right now.
Hey, let me ask you this, Tony. Why did you pick Raymondville over Robstown?
I picked Raymondville. I'm just going off of history. Both records are the same. You know, I already know Raymondville's played Rockport, so they've already played a tough team that I know, a tougher team that I know Robstown hasn't faced. I mean, they did face Ingleside already, and they got beat pretty bad. But you know, Raymondville's already played who I thought was the toughest Valley team in Port Isabel, and then Rockport. You know what I mean? So I think that going into week 3 of district, I think they're probably more prepared. That's
So
why
it's
I'm going with Raymondville.
2-2. Okay. Write it down, Tony. Write it down.
I'm writing it down. The next game I have the 3-3 GP Wildcats versus the 3-2 Victoria West. I'm not really sure what their mascot is. I know the other ones are Titans. I think they're the Warriors.
They're the Warriors.
Warriors. Victoria
Yeah.
West Warriors. So in this one, Johnny, who do you got? Because I know Steve needs a little bit of help on this one.
Ah,
I'm actually going to go with GP for once. I'm going to tell you why I've been kind of pulling about against GP. Y'all have the relatives, y'all hear from the family about not going for them. I have the opposite. I have family in Gregory-Portland that we kind of nag on each other that, haha, you lost, not how you lost. And you got to remember, Rockport was never the winning tradition when I was a little kid growing up. So imagine all that
you
talk,
still win with
all those
Sinton?
primos growing up. When you have an aunt that had 19 kids, and after that, over 350 grandkids and great-great-grandkids all together, all them yakking, GP this, the 77-0 Rockport against GP, you know, so that's the negative I have the hate for the GP. But I will pick GP on this one just because they beat Flower Bluff. That was a huge, huge win. And I'm starting to go a little bit pulling for GP because Victoria West lost against Flower Bluff. Y'all remember 66-13. So I'm easily going to go with GP on this one.
You know, that whole story you just said about why you pick against GP and you still pick Sinton. I don't get it. It's like goes against what you just said. All right, I'm gonna leave you alone on that one. Okay, Steve.
It's a family thing. It's a family thing. That's what it is. The
I'm
family
just
irritates
with it.
Johnny that he's got to hear that GP won. That's why. Hey, I ride that same boat with Johnny, man. I didn't like GP either. I still don't.
Yeah, I never had to play against GP growing up, so I can't say nothing.
Yeah, they put beans on
Uh,
it when we were in school.
so Steve, does that help you out? You going with GP or I mean, Victoria East? I mean, they just beat Victoria East, and we thought Victoria East was a team this year. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They beat them 63-46.
Yeah.
So do you think?
They're playing Victoria West?
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying Victoria West just beat Victoria East
Oh yeah.
63-46, and we in the beginning of the season we talked about Victoria East being the team that was going to be tough over there, and then Victoria West comes out there and blows them away. So, what does that tell you about the Victoria West team? Are they getting better, or did they just play better against their hometown rival? Do you think GP's got enough to beat Victoria West? What are your thoughts?
Yeah. No, honestly, I think that's kind of just like one of those in town rivalries they got going over there, and they're always going to play each other differently. You know, than they're going to play everybody else. Listen, so here's my thinking, okay? So when I see a stud, you know what I'm saying? I ride that joker until, you know, I feel the legs starting to get wobbly, and then I jump off of the bandwagon really fast and I get off, you know, just like hence the Taft, right? So I rode Taft, you know, for those wins, and I was able to get some wins out of Taft, and then I jumped off of that joker, and then I latched on to GP, and I rode GP to a few victories. That's where I'm at right now. And GP still galloping. So I'm gonna take GP on this one right here. we're gonna squeeze every win I can out of these guys. They're on a hot streak right now. I think they solidify their spot, and they get this win over Victoria West, and they put a stamp on that 2 seed.
Well, I'll tell you what, the quarterback is a sophomore up in Victoria West, and he's got 772 yards passing on the season, 5 TDs, and then they have a junior quarterback who also throws the ball, 228 yards passing, and 2 touchdowns. So I mean, you know, they got a running back that has 534 yards rushing. They got another one with 366 yards rushing. They could run the ball and they could pass the ball over there in Victoria West. I just want to make sure you still got GP, right? Make sure you know those numbers before
Yeah,
I
we're
move
gonna
on to
ride.
Gabriel.
We're
All
gonna
right.
ride with it.
So I'm gonna put you down for GP.
Yes,
Gabriel,
sir.
who do you got?
Yeah, I think you got to ride with Gregory-Portland. Those are good numbers, Tony. Those are impressive numbers for Victoria West. But Johnny brings a good point about the Flower Bluff game. And then the biggest thing is GP's just on a hot streak, man. I mean, they're beating good ball clubs, and then they competed against the best team in their district, and they were in the game to be able to win it, even though they lost. So I think it's hard to pick against Gregory-Portland right now with what you've seen in the last few weeks from them. It's just crazy. So I got to go with Gregory-Portland. I mean, I think that Victoria West could win this game, but you'd be crazy to pick against Gregory-Portland the way they've been playing. I mean, the odds tell you got to go with GP in this one. Is it going to be played in Portland or Victoria West?
It's gonna be played in Portland.
Yeah,
Portland.
you have to go to Portland. I mean, just the way they've been playing, man, they're building that confidence, man. They just beat Flower Bluff. Even though Flower Bluff, you know, the impressive thing, Tony, and guys about Flower Bluff is they fumbled, right? So we can say, well, they didn't have a good game, but GP capitalized on those fumbles. They knew what to do with it, and so, man, I just think it's hard to pick against Gregory-Portland right now with what they've been doing. So you got to go pretty much GP.
Yeah, and think of the common opponent, right? So Victoria West got pummeled by Flower Bluff, 66-13, 2 weeks ago. So
Yeah.
what's changed? You know what I'm saying? What's changed?
Right,
What
right.
what have
Yeah.
they done differently in this week, right? That week span. So yeah, Gregory-Portland's got this game.
But I mean, but if you want to go there, Victoria East beat Flower Bluff 30-28. And then Victoria West goes over there and whips Victoria East. So if
Yeah,
you want to
but
go there, I mean, I'm just
no,
saying.
but that's big brother, little brother syndrome right there. You know what I'm saying? That
I'm
that
just saying. It just if you're going by that, I mean, Victoria
no,
East beats Flower
but
Bluff.
I'm talking about a neutral opponent, not somebody from your backyard and that you got primos over there and you know and all that stuff. No, I'm talking about an opponent, a neutral opponent. You know, they ain't got no dog in the fight. You know, they're just out there trying to win. So you factor that in. You know what I'm saying? I think GP wins this handily. I'm gonna say probably 21 points.
Wow. I'm thinking it's gonna be a close game. I'm gonna say this is a 7
Woo,
to
come on.
14. The 14 the most separates these two teams. That's what I'm gonna say. It's gonna be closer than that. So next game I got should be a good one. I don't know. Alice has been kind of shaky, but we got a 2-3 Alice versus a 3-2 Miller. Johnny, who do you got?
Would you go first?
You want me to go first? I got
I'll call
Miller.
you out.
I got Miller.
You got Miller.
I got Miller. I already got it highlighted. I'm not changing it. Nobody can make me change it. I already did the homework I thought I needed to do.
Okay,
Did you need some help with your pick? That's why.
I'm gonna go on that. I'm gonna go right behind you on that. So I don't know if you can see. I have little scribble marks around the Miller when I circled it.
You just circled it right now.
I had to go dig a little bit. I'm going out of my way. I got to catch up because I got a feeling everybody's gonna go Miller on this one. I'm not sure, but I'm gonna go with Alice.
Wow. I thought I had swayed you.
Their pass defense happens to be standing out for me. And this is Miller's only go-to thing to win ball games is their pass. Out of 1, 2, 3, 4, out of 5 games, Alice has only given up 566 yards passing. That's only 113 yards passing per game. I'm going to go off of that. I'm going to go off of that. And I think their pass defense can shut out Miller. I don't think Miller's that great of an offense this year yet.
Right. So Steve, what does that do for you, Steve? You got 1-1.
Yeah.
This is what I'll say about his comment about.
Who?
This is what I'll say about Johnny's comment about Alice's pass defense, and that's all that Miller has. Miller got to the 4th or 5th round of the playoffs last year, not because they had a great defense.
Not their defense.
Yeah, not because they had a great defense, but because they could score at will. And they had to outscore every team they played because they did not have a defense.
Somebody's not there this year.
Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I think he's going to get better, not worse.
Yeah. No, I'm a ride with Miller on this one. I think the strength of schedule, they played the tougher opponents. I think they're more battle tested. You know, they came within 4 points of no, I'm sorry. So they got the win over Sinton. You know, they scored 21 on Vets. They even scored 14 points against La Vega. So and Westlow, they're a pretty tough team down there. We got them too, right? Yeah, they're our state game. So yeah, no, so that's what I'm gonna base it off of. I'm gonna ride with Miller. I think they played the tougher opponents, and they didn't fare well on some of them. You know, they showed they got some grit. So I'm a ride with Miller. Alice, you know, they had a 2-game winning streak. They're on a 2-game winning streak. They won 2 games in a row. But their opponents, you know, or the last opponent really wasn't that great. So, and that train kind of already left the station for me. So I'm gonna ride with Miller.
He's jumping out the Coyote bandwagon already.
I'm gone,
Damn.
bro. I'm a car hopping fool.
Who do you got, Gabe?
I got Miller. I
Miller?
think I like I think Miller's defense. Let's go to Miller first. I think Miller's obviously they don't have Andrew Body, but that defense to me is better this year than they were last year. They've improved. And they got a running back there that can get them some yards, and we've seen that. You know, he doesn't get a lot of yards because they pass more than they run, but they've got a capable back down there that's big and can get them those yards when they need to keep those drives going. If it's you know, a third and short. Now, when they played Sinton, they didn't have Riley and Galvan, but they did have Renee Galvan, and they had that offensive line there, and they didn't do very much. You know, kind of like, you know, same score, more or less like Rockport. You know, the defense was able to hold them. So we talk about Ryland, right? But Renee was there. But that offensive line, that's what moves the ball. And they couldn't really do too much. So even though I think if Sinton would have been healthy, all of them, they beat Miller, but they didn't.
I don't think
Miller
so.
comes. So Miller comes out. But the thing with Alice on the other side is, what's Alice offense going to do? Because Miller's defense, like Johnny pointed out, if Alice's defense is good at one thing, or they're really good at one thing, it's what Miller likes to do. It's a very good point that he brings up, because Miller's going to pass. And so Alice's strength on that defense is to stop that pass. I'm just not so sure how good Alice's offense and how many points they can score against that Miller defense, a very much improved defense than they were last year. So I got to go with Miller. I just think there'll be too much for 4 quarters for them, and they get the win. And Steve makes also a good point. This is why Evans picks and does what he does. It's for the district, you know, even though they lost, they're learning things from these teams. And I think it's going to pay starting off this week with Alice. So I'm going Miller Bucks.
So I'm looking at some last year's stats from this game. Miller beat them last year 73-42. So check this out. Miller rushed for 256 yards with the same 2 running backs that they still have. They still have the same 2 running backs from last year. They rushed for 256 yards against Alice, probably because of that pass defense. Because they only passed for 224, and I say only, that's a lot. But Alice passed for 335 yards against Miller. But again, I said Miller don't have a great defense. But they found a way to win. They scored 6 touchdowns on the ground versus Alice. With the same 2 running backs that they had last year. They're both there. One's a senior.
Tony, but the reason
Who's the leading rusher?
Don't
tell me Brody.
It doesn't say. It's because last year I don't have their names. For the team, I can get it for the team. Let me get that for you because I know who it was probably. Go back here.
They could get more. Miller doesn't.
Number 13, I think number 13 or number 3. He got a 3 in it. Let's see, roster. Here we go.
Yeah, but Miller. But the thing is that Miller could probably get more yards. They don't run the ball. They pass. That's a pass. Miller's gonna pass no matter what. No matter what you do. That's what Evans does. You got to stop it. You stop it. You beat us. But if you don't, we're gonna beat you. But they're capable. They've got running backs that they could go out there and keep that ground game and keep that clock on it if they wanted to. Evan has that at his disposal. I think the biggest thing is Miller's defense is much improved. And if Alice can't score enough points, Miller's going to beat him because as good, I think, as Alice's secondary is, I think Miller's going to score some points. Now, they may not get to the 30s and 40s, but they're going to score points. If they score 28, can Alice score 28 on Miller's defense? Is the question.
I know you said they don't have body. This quarterback right now in 5 games has 1,500 yards passing. He's completing 52% of his passes, and he has 19 touchdowns. Sophomore, 1,500 yards passing right now after 5 weeks and almost 20 touchdowns.
That's
That's
all
what
they do
Alice
is
is gonna.
pass.
That's what
though.
Alice is gonna have to deal with this week. I don't know, but I'm
I
glad you
don't-
picked him.
but,
He
hey,
picked
but,
Alice. He picked
Yeah.
No,
Alice.
I'm glad he,
I
did.
think
He did.
Alex.
Who did?
Johnny
Johnny.
did.
I did.
Moving on
What were you
up.
gonna say,
Moving
Gabe?
on up. I'm moving on up.
oh, nothing. I was just gonna say that Alice is gonna come down to deep, but he passes. That's why he's got those yards because he passed. That's what they do. They pass the whole game, and he may have to change it now if he's facing an Alice defense. I just don't know if Alice offense can score enough because that Miller's defense is better this year than it was last year.
Pick six, baby.
Uh, Greenwood got 352 yards on the year, and then McCouillon, whatever his name is, that was their other running back. They got Greenwood, which is the big one, and then McCouillon or McCullen or whatever
They
his
can
name
run
is.
the ball, Tony. They can run the ball. They just choose not to. They got some backs that can run. So
And they got a
I
big
mean,
offensive line.
So
Big
They got a
ass
big
line.
offensive line.
and they wear your defense down is what they do. They wear you down.
Yeah, because you got to run down the field covering those receivers the whole game. So, anyways, moving on to the game of the week, we got the Ingleside Mustangs versus the West Oso Bears. Steve, I'm gonna go to you first.
Nah.
Oh, you want to hear what everybody else got to say first?
No, I got
Alright.
my pick. I don't want no one to
Gable
jump.
already said. Gable
I don't
already
want no
said
one
he
to
got
jump on my
Ingleside.
bandwagon.
So I'm putting that in. You said Ingleside when we did coach, right? Gabe?
Huh?
Yes, I'm going Ingleside.
Okay.
But
All
I'll
right.
tell you why.
Go
Listen,
ahead.
West Oso, like I said earlier, West Oso is they're playing good. But Ingleside's playing great right now. And if you tell them, hey man, we're gonna lose to Rockport and Sinton, Ingleside loses. Well, so is West Oso. So that didn't say much, right? Because if you're gonna say, well, Ingleside's they're gonna lose, so is West Oso. They're gonna lose to Sinton and Rockport, I think. So it comes down to Ingleside, which one's the better team. I gotta go with Hamrick because he's been in that program a lot longer. Smitty's gonna be great, I think, and they've got athletes, but it's still putting that offense together. That program's still not quite where it needs to be. Great win by Rio Hondo, but we saw what Ingleside did to Rio Hondo and the points that they scored. I think Ingleside's strength is their defense, not their offense. And I think West Oso, now they got that quarterback. And I'm not saying that Ingleside's going to blow them out because I don't think they will. But I think when it's all said and done, Ingleside is going to win this game. Now, if Ingleside comes out and they play sloppy and they turn the ball over with penalties, now all of a sudden West Oso can hang in there and maybe win this game. But West Oso's also got to play a good game. They won one game and that's good. But now you're going up against a more powerful team than Rio Hondo. I know the score between Rio Hondo and Ingleside wasn't that much of a league where they beat them, but it's Ingleside's defense, I think, that'll come up strong, and they'll need that defense because this quarterback in this game played really good. So I think it'll be a good one, but I just got to go with Ingleside. I just think Ingleside, I just can't pick against Ingleside, although I think West Oso's up and coming.
I'm ready
All
now.
right, Steve. You ready now?
I'm ready
All
now.
right. Who do you got?
So, all right. Hey, so I'm gonna go back to the analogy I just made about knowing when to get off, right? You ride that Mustang until it's time to get off. Them legs are wobbly over there. Listen, honestly, I'm not crazy about everything that Ingleside's doing right now. Right? I mean, they've got they got all these wins, but they're against inferior teams. Right? The only decent team that with any notoriety that they played and they got a win was Gonzales. But Gonzales this year, they're on a downswing. So if you throw out that quality win against Gonzales, who've they beat? So they beat Mathis 15-10. They beat Aransas Pass, blew them out. They got the win against Gonzales, and then they beat Rio Hondo. So, I mean, Rio Hondo, I'm telling you, the Valley ain't got nothing. They're not bringing anything to the board this year. I'm going to ride with West Oso on this one. All right. I think it's, I think Ingleside's a great team, but I think West Oso is ready for to get their big win, their big signature win for the season. And I think they max out on Ingleside, meaning like that's going to be the toughest team that they beat. I think they go on to beat the Robstowns and all the Valley boys. But that's going to be Smitty's signature win for the season. And that's going to get them into the playoffs. And actually, by default, Tony, help me out. I'm not extremely good in math, but if they beat Ingleside and it goes out the way we're thinking it's going to go out, they might end up in the 3rd seed, which would bump down.
Which means they might win round 1 of the playoffs.
You know what I'm saying? So that's where I'm at with my pick. I think the legs on the Mustangs are getting a little wobbly for me. Obviously, they're still putting up great numbers and they're doing great things, but I just think their one signature win doesn't do it for me. I've been watching them, and I've been praising them, and they're doing great. They're doing good, and I'm glad that their program's getting some wins. But I think this is going to be West Oso's week.
So Johnny, what Steve is saying is West Oso's played more quality opponents. So do you agree or you disagree?
I'm gonna go by experience on this game. We're going from Ingleside, who've been competitive last couple of years, going into playoffs against West Oso, who barely even get a couple wins here and there. Do they know how to play a big game? Do they know how to play a big game? Because obviously they can't win a big game. Yeah, they played against this team, they played against that team, but anybody could play against this team and that team, but can they beat a team? You got to beat a big team to be a winner. Yeah, you can go so. Yeah, we came close to this game. We came to close to that game. This team has this record, this team, but it comes down to, can you win the big game? And I don't think they could win the big game, so I'm going with Ingleside on this one.
And I gotta ask Tony, because I think Tony's gonna go West Oso. What do you see in West Oso that makes you think that they can beat Ingleside? I mean, they've only won 1 game this season. Because you talk about Ingleside.
You ask us both the same question, but I bet you they're going to be 2 different answers.
Well, but you're saying like, Ingleside hasn't impressed me. Well, it doesn't matter what West Oso, they ain't won.
Okay, so
they
check it out.
They didn't beat Taft. They didn't beat those teams.
Let's talk about this though. West Oso played Rio Hondo last week.
Here we go. What can they beat?
They beat 34-20. They beat West Oso. West Oso beat Rio Hondo 34-20. Ingleside beat Rio Hondo 34-21. Okay, now we're talking about teams that we know more about. Now we talk about preseason, about the games that West Oso didn't win. 2 of those teams are still undefeated against quality opponents. Okay, we're talking about San Diego.
You're talking about
San Diego's still undefeated.
But can they beat those? Did they beat those teams?
They didn't, but those are their losses.
That's
we're
my
talking
point.
about. We're talking about Ingleside.
You can't win the big games.
We're talking about Ingleside playing Aransas. Could West Oso beat Aransas?
Yeah. But you compare Rio Hondo.
But could they? Because that would be another win. Could they beat Aransas?
Rio Hondo wasn't a big game to compare a game to.
Okay, could they beat Aransas?
Who's that?
West Oso.
Who can't beat Aransas?
So you're saying that they would have that same win?
Exactly.
No, but what Johnny's saying is, what Johnny's saying, Tony, is that like he's saying, okay, this is a big game with Ingleside, and the big games that they played before, even though West Oso's getting better, it's like what I want to see from you guys. They haven't won those games. I know they played Taft that was tough, and they played Odem that was tough, but they didn't win those games.
Well, what about
Rio Hondo? Rio Hondo's not a big game.
So you're calling Gonzalez?
We just said the Valley's trash.
But are you saying Gonzalez is a big game? They're 2-3.
On the record, the Valley. On the record, does anybody see Gabriel Trevino has never said y'all were trash? Not me. You can go back to all my videos. They're on YouTube, GT Sports. I never called y'all trash.
Hey,
move on, Tony.
So is Gonzalez the big game? I mean, they've only won 2 games.
Hey, a win's a win.
But we just said West Oso could beat Aransas, so that would be 2 games for West
No, but I
Oso.
want to know from you and Steve why y'all think. What do you see in West Oso? I know Steve said that
West
Sinton
Oso-
doesn't impress him.
West
What's your-
Oso
like
has
he said-
played. West Oso has played teams with winning records, not losing records.
Okay,
they still have
so,
winning records in week
stop
6.
right there. Stop right there. Who are those teams you're talking about? Name me those
The
teams.
Odem Owls, who might go undefeated, who might be undefeated in 3A Division 1.
Johnny, I got this. Johnny, I got this. Go ahead, Steve. I mean, go
Okay?
ahead, Tony.
They might be undefeated.
Okay,
Okay? The Taft
and they
Greyhounds,
lost. And they lost, right? And they lost. West Oso lost. Okay, 2.
and they were
second game.
competitive in that game. They matched them point for point in the second half. And we talked to Coach Smitty about the boys not putting in 4 quarters. Now it takes a little while for a team who hasn't been with this coach as long as Ingleside has been with Hamrick. So they should be able to win games. They should be able to play 4 quarters. No,
And who
Hamrick's
else?
been there for a few years.
Who else? Taft. Okay, Tom. Who else? San Diego.
Odem and San Diego.
Okay. Okay, those are 3 teams. Now, those teams you said good, and they lost, right? Ingleside's coming in undefeated like San Diego and Odem. It's the same thing, and they've lost. So in 2 weeks, what has changed that has made you think that they can beat Ingleside? Because I would compare Ingleside to Odem and San Diego, right? So is it going to be
Possibly.
like that? You see what I'm saying? I want to know from
West
you guys.
also played 4 quarters last week. They played 4 quarters last week. Look at the box score. They played 4 quarters of football. They didn't play 4 quarters of football in those other games. They either played the first half only or the second half only. That was it. And then, of course, against Sinton, they got shut out. So what you're saying is because Ingleside is undefeated against nobody, that they're going to beat West Oso because they only won 1 game against quality teams?
Well, I don't know.
know.
I mean, I like Coach Smith and stuff, but I don't know if I'm going to jump on the wagon with just 1 win. I mean, competing is good, but you didn't win like Johnny said. You didn't win.
But if West Oso plays Mathis and West Oso plays Aransas Pass, they're going to have 2 more wins under their belt. Then we'll be talking about 3-2 and not 1-4.
True.
Then we're talking about
3-2
and not 1-4. If they play the same teams, they're 3-2 and Ingleside's still 5-0. Okay. But this is the week they played. Last week they played 4 quarters of football. They're not going to take this game lightly.
And neither
They're
is
not going to take this
Ingleside.
game lightly. Port Isabel's 4-0. That doesn't tell me nothing. I wouldn't put them against anyone right now. They're undefeated.
I think it's going to be a good one. I just had a hard time picking West Oso to beat Ingleside but like Johnny said, real quick, it's not just this year. They've been progressively getting better every year. Steve talks about their program, their powerlifting program, and Coach Hamrick said how some of those have transitioned to football. So yeah, they might be playing sloppy, but they got some players out there. Will it be enough against West Oso? We'll see. But it was hard for me to go to West Oso when Ingleside, for years, we've been saying they're coming up. So we'll see what happens.
Any given day.
This is what just happened. Let me tell you what just happened. I had Ingleside, but after having this conversation, I went to West Oso because I talked myself into West
Oso no matter what. That's your
Steve,
home.
you
No.
believe that, Steve?
You were not gonna go. You were not gonna go. Steve, do you believe he was gonna go against West Oso?
What does it say? What's
Really?
highlighted right there? Can y'all see?
You know, he was picking. Steve,
right.
he was picking West Oso before. Now that they got the win, do you honestly think that he was gonna pick against them? And we just had their coach on. Tony's pumped up with West Oso Bears. He was going West
What does it
Oso
say
all
right
the way.
there?
I can see it now.
I had Ingleside. I just switched my pick right now because I talked myself out of it. I'm going West Oso.
Hey, let him go. Let him go.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Hey, you got this.
I'm gonna blow everybody.
He's gonna do what? All right, moving on. We got 4-0 San Diego versus the 2-2 Bishop Badgers. Steve, who do you got?
I got San Diego. No brainer.
Because they beat a
bit-
quality opponent like West Oso.
Yeah, because they beat a quality opponent. Their strength of schedule. No,
There you go.
and Bishop, Z-Man touched on it. Bishop just doubled up their points from the entire year off of one game. You know what I'm saying? Those guys hadn't scored all together, you know what I'm saying, 20-something points, and they just put it up this week. So, yeah, no, they need to be more consistent for me. So right now, I think the more consistent team is San Diego, and I got them down for the win.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and go next, just because I don't want nobody to think I want to go last all the time. I'm also going with San Diego. I feel like, I think what is it? San Diego is in the same district with London, right? Is that right?
No.
No.
I think they
Let me see.
are.
I'm pulling it.
I think they are. T.
Yeah, they play London. They play London in week 10.
Yeah,
So
they're 3A.
I think San Diego wins the rest of their games until they play London, and then it's gonna be a battle. So I'm gonna go with San Diego. I feel that confident about the way they're playing football right now. That San Diego's gonna get this game easily. This will be a big win for San Diego. Johnny?
Yeah, I'm going San Diego also.
The original Vaquero. What does the original Vaquero say over there, Gabriel?
Gabe? You just said
Yeah,
they weren't
okay.
a quality opponent. You got Bishop?
Who's not a quality opponent?
San Diego.
Yeah, bitch.
I'm going San Diego, man. I've been going San Diego from the very get-go.
Yeah, he has.
So they're a quality opponent now?
Now they're quite.
Well, look, but you're looking. I mean, I know you love West Oso, you know, and I know that there's some personal stuff there, but they've only won one game. Now they beat Ingleside this week. Then we're talking something different. Now they beat a quality opponent, but
Okay, well, if we
there's no,
didn't,
there's no
didn't,
more.
if we
There's no
didn't,
moral victory. You guys say, right? There's no moral victory, right? That's what
no,
you
but
guys
if we
say.
don't pick them going into the game, and then it doesn't count. So like
But that's what I'm
when,
saying.
so
But
we gotta pick them.
Yeah, but I wanted to know, you know, like I can defend why I'm picking Ingleside. They're 5-0. These guys won one game, and now they're going up against a really good team that I think is just like Taft. I think Ingleside's just like Taft, just like Odem, just like San Diego. If they couldn't beat those teams, what makes me think they can beat Ingleside, right?
We're going into week 7, and they're prepared now. Prepared. They've
Okay.
already played those games. Ingleside hasn't played those games. Ingleside had they were able to
remember,
make mistakes and still win. They were able to make mistakes and still win. They didn't even have their whole team, and they still beat Mathis. You know what I'm saying? Because they're not playing nobody. They didn't even have all their coaches on the sideline, and they beat Mathis because that's the kind of opponents they're facing.
okay, let me
That's
ask
what
you
I'm
this real quick before we go to the next game.
Hey, we passed up.
Hey, look, real quick. Can they beat Rockport? Can West Oso beat Rockport?
No,
No,
Why not? They're
can't.
really good. They've been playing some tough teams. I think San Diego and all those teams, they prepared them for Rockport. They've been prepared. That's
They're
what you're
prepared
saying.
to be competitive,
They've
but they're not
been
going to beat
playing
Rockport.
undefeated. They've been playing undefeated San Diego. They've been playing undefeated Odem. Dallas prepared them for the big game against Rockport. What's the difference?
We're talking
difference
about
Ain't no
Rockport.
difference. They're
Eras's
prepared.
pass
They're
is
prepared.
Owen
They're
in
prepared.
like 2
And Ray,
years.
look.
Oh,
Outside of
30.
Sinton, look.
0
Hey, real
30.
quick, because we got to go real quick. Check this out. And who the hell's Rockport played? Aransas Pass, Toloso Midway,
Mhm.
King. Look at their record. Who the
Yep.
hell have they played? So if they can beat Ingleside, they should be able to beat Rockport, right? I'm just saying.
I don't think Ingleside could beat Choloso Midway. So they didn't beat them last year. They played them last year and they didn't beat them. They didn't beat them last year. They lost. And I remember that game. I praised them for that loss because they were competitive in that game.
Makes for good podcasting, Steve.
Yeah.
All right.
And we probably lost half of Ingleside already. They probably fucking logged off.
Not me, Coach
Yeah.
Hamrick. I'm still here, man. I'm backing up those Ingleside Mustangs. But I like the West Oso Bears too. Don't get me wrong. We just had a coach meeting. I like him too. I think it's gonna be a good game. All right, who do you got? Who's next? Beeville?
We got
Oh my
the 2 and
goodness,
3
Beeville.
Beeville Trojans versus the Port Lavaca Calhoun Sandcrabs 2 and 3.
Hey, so this is Gabriel's poison right here. He hates it when Beeville's on
Yeah, I
the
like
schedule.
Hammer and I like Smitty, but I also like Sosa.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna go with Beeville this week.
No, that's his poison. Look at him. He's turning inside out. Beeville's his poison. He's got to pick
Johnny, who do you
Beeville.
got,
I
Johnny?
should have taken that. I
I'll
should
leave
have taken it off the schedule.
Who do you got,
You should
Johnny?
go
I'm gonna leave.
You should go to me
You know what,
first.
dude? I think this is
Oh,
gonna be
you
a
want to
good
go
game.
first?
Let
Gabriel
Johnny
wants to
go.
go
Let
first.
Johnny go. Let Johnny go. I want to hear
Go.
what Johnny's got to say.
I think this is gonna be a good game. I think we're overestimating Calhoun. I don't think they're not that great of a team they were before, and Beeville could put them a game, give them a game. You never know in games like this. But I'm still gonna go with Calhoun over Sosa.
Gabe, who do you got, Gabe?
Yeah. I want to see Beeville win, but I don't think this is going to be the one. I don't see Calhoun. I think Calhoun's running game is still good. So yeah, I mean, I got to go. It's the same thing like we were talking about. Beeville hasn't shown anything this year that would tell me, yeah, they're going to be able to beat the games that they played. And this is a good team that we thought would be at least second place in their district. So Beeville hasn't shown yet that they can win a quality game. So I've got to go with Calhoun. Hopefully, Beeville, it'll be competitive, but I got to go with Calhoun, man. I just don't think Beeville can beat them. But Johnny's probably got a good point. When this should be a game that Beeville could surprise them, but I'm going Calhoun. They got the running attack.
I don't think this is gonna be their week. I got Calhoun. I mean, they beat Navarro. You know what I mean? They beat Navarro. I'm not talking about competing with them. They beat Navarro. They had a close game, a close loss versus El Campo. You know what I mean? And so their 3 losses are to some quality teams. I don't know nothing about. Well, Rudder they forfeited, so and I don't know nothing about Second Baptist, and that game wasn't lopsided, so. Definitely going to go with Calhoun. I just don't think Beeville has the firepower this year.
Yeah,
Johnny? Steve.
That Second Baptist team is basically a stat select team. You know what I'm saying? That should have never been on the schedule. You should have seen how much hype that got on that side of town up there in H-Town. I got so much hype. They were all like, "Oh, we beat Calhoun." Man, are y'all serious? That's a select team that they got down there. They got 35-year-old guys like that other team. You know what I'm saying? They're picking and choosing kids down there. So no, that didn't carry well with me. But anyway, no, I got Calhoun on this one. I was just trying to give Gabe the squirms over there. I thought for sure he was going to go with Beeville. How come Beeville doesn't do it for you? Because they didn't play no quality opponents?
No, because Calhoun's going to be. They haven't shown that they can, stop anybody on defense, and this is a good offense coming in with the rushing attack. So,
wise choice.
I'm gonna put Johnny. I'm gonna go ahead and go to you, Steven. I'm gonna put Johnny and Gabriel down for Port Isabel because they're undefeated. Sinton and 4-1 Sinton versus Port Isabel.
Hey,
5-0.
I'm gonna tell you something, T. You better hope that Westoso wins. Because if they lose, you're going to hate to come on the podcast. Because every time we go to the game, I'm going to throw that game right back in your face. So you better call Smitty. You better go down there on your day off and help him make a game plan because you better beat Ingleside. Because if not, it's like the people at work today. They had to hear me talk about the Dallas Cowboys. They wanted to punch me. You know what? Punch me. I'll be happy because my Dallas Cowboys are winning. I'm happy. You can spit on me. I'll wipe the spit off and still walk away because I'm happy.
I don't know. Who y'all got? Let me start first.
I already put them down for Port Isabel because they go for the undefeated teams. Who do you guys think?
No, I'm gonna take Sinton, bro.
I feel some hate.
I'm gonna take Sinton. All right, I'm gonna pick Sinton.
It's 2-2. I got me and Steve both went with Sinton. The next I'm messing with you. Who do you got, Johnny?
Of course. I already jumped on their bandwagon.
Oh, you're on their bandwagon. I thought you were just picking them for a week.
I know, man. What's all that about, Z-Man? You're going with the sitting. Well, I gotta go sitting, man. There ain't no way Puerto Rico's gonna. There ain't nobody gonna be sitting in this. And nobody gonna be.
It's
They're
for
gonna
the
go.
district lead.
Yeah, they're gonna win
It's a
district.
big game for the district lead.
Yeah.
Showdown.
They're not gonna. Nobody's gonna be sitting from here on out.
Ingleside does though, and West Oso. Oh, West Oso already lost. I hope Ingleside beats them. After Ingleside loses to West Oso this week, they're gonna regroup and they're gonna go into Sinton and beat them. All right.
Hey, I love the fact that you backed up your team, though. That's good.
Hey, so the last game we're gonna talk about in the area before we go on to the state game, we got the 6-0 Odem Owls versus the 4-2 Banquetti Bulldogs. Johnny, who you got?
I'm going stronger with Odem. It just seems like they're turning it on now. Even though they've been hot all year, I just think, I think they got this one easily.
Steve, who do you got?
I'm gonna go with Odem right here. I think they faced a more quality opponents. No, man. Hey, I got Odem big on this one. Banquetti still got a way to go, bro.
Banquetti's 4-2.
Yeah, strength of schedule.
Hey, who do you got, Gabe?
Hey, and
I'm
remember,
going Odem.
Taft's watching. Can't pick Odem.
You got to
that's
pick
all right.
Odem. You got to pick against Odem, dude, for Taft to win it.
They're
That's
not.
true.
They're not. Yeah. No, they're not beating Banquetti. Well, you give me a quality team, and I'll go against Odem. But Banquetti isn't going to beat Odem. It's just like that's like Robstown playing Sinton. It's not going to
That-
happen.
Who you got in the Hebronville Odem matchup?
Who, me?
Yeah,
Tune
Gabe.
into week.
Oh,
Tune
I'm
into
going
week 9 for that pick.
I'm going Odem. Odem will beat him.
Tune it.
Okay.
So
I
we
don't
got
think
everyone.
Hebronville's that good.
No, we'll see.
And you got to
They're
look at
still undefeated.
Odem. They go 1 and done or 2, and then they're out of the playoffs. So they don't make a lot of noise in the 2A. They haven't the last couple of years.
All right. So let's see what tree gets shaken right here. We got the number 5 Stephenville versus the number 7 Waco La Vega. Stephenville is 5-0. Waco La Vega is 3-2. Johnny, you picked them. I'm gonna let you go first.
Damn.
Wait. What'd you say? What's that? Who's 5-0? Stephenville?
Stephenville.
Well, you know what? Even though
One's number
Stephenville's
5,
up
one's
there,
number 7.
Stephenville's up there. I think this is where La Vega turns it on. They've been known to turn it on once the season gets going in previous years, and this is the time they shine. Obviously, they played the strength of schedule pretty strong too. So it's not like that record has anything affecting what's going on. Totally different than what I was talking about earlier. Can they win the big game? Because Stephenville's obviously the big game. They fell short against other big games, big state ranked teams. But I think La Vega's going to pull this one out. That's what I'm going with, and I'm sticking to it.
But that's it.
Steve, who do you got, Steve?
Hey, I'm going with Waco La Vega here, bro. I think they're a tough team to beat, bro. Later this season, the harder it is to get a win against these guys, and they're already playing well. So it's not like they got to pick up more there, but they will. Although this team is undefeated, that's all eye candy right now. That's just dressing for Gabriel. So we'll just leave that one for Gabriel. That eye candy. 7-0, baby.
I'm going Stephenville. I'm taking Stephenville. I gotta give you guys a chance. If you can't get the picks right, I gotta give you guys a chance to catch up. You guys are getting too far behind.
Okay.
I gotta help you guys catch up to me. So I'll take Stephenville, and maybe next week I'll take another team that won't win. So we can make it a little bit more competitive.
Come
You can't
on,
make
man.
it.
Well,
Hey,
you
he
guys
just
are
had the
behind.
he
I mean,
just
you
had the
guys are behind.
crappiest.
You've been behind the whole season. I mean, come on.
Don't
You've been
make me feel
behind.
like
I gotta
you're
help
letting
you
us
guys
back in
catch
it.
up. Come on up here. Come on. It's nice up here. Come on.
That's
I
Who do you
terrible.
got, T? Who do you got,
I
T?
got
Who do you got?
Stephenville as well. I'm jumping on Johnny and Gable's bandwagon. I'm gonna go with the
No,
undefeated
Johnny's got
team.
La Vega.
I got
No,
Vega.
I'm talking about picking the undefeated
Oh.
teams.
Oh,
So
Come
I'm
be a
going with
winner.
Stephenville.
Hey, come be a winner, Tony. Come on.
Hey,
Come be a winner.
you know, hey, Waco La Vega lost a close one to Argyle, who's number 1 in the state. You know, they lost to LBJ, who's like
That's why
number
they're
3 in
picking La
state.
Vega. That's why.
You know, and then they beat Miller, who's ranked number 10 in state. So
Argyle just lost last weekend.
who would they play?
They lost. I know
Melissa.
that. Melissa.
Oh, Melissa.
Yeah.
Well, those are
But
the
it-
picks.
That don't say much,
Oh,
right?
you
That,
sure
that kind
you
of
don't wanna-
argues against me.
Tony, do
I
you
know,
want to change it? Do you want to change
No,
it?
I'm going with Stephenville. So those are the picks for week 7. Our records right now going into week 7. We have Gabriel on top at 39 wins and 15 losses. Then I'm in that second spot at 35 wins and 19 losses. And then we got Steve and Johnny. You could say tie for third or tie for last, however you want to put it. 34 and 20. So that's what the standings are so far after 6 weeks of football. And those are our picks for week 7. Gabriel.
All right,
you
guys.
wanna
Tony,
close it
thanks.
out?
Yeah, thanks very much. So we made the podcast a little bit more interesting, more debating and stuff than just picking and going down. So it went a little longer, but it's a lot of fun, and this is great what we're doing, guys. So thank you very much. Just a quick reminder that Coach Hassel will be here on Wednesday at 7. At 6:30, we're gonna have, I believe, I know Peyton Martinez and Kaylee Howe will be on at 6:30 on Wednesday. So we'll be coming on. I'll be on at 6:15. We'll start at 6:30. It'll be a quick 15, 20 minutes with the girls. Then we go with Hassel at 7. I think Valeria Ramirez, I haven't confirmed that, but I know we've been working trying to get her on. So if we get them on, it'll be Peyton Martinez, Kaylee Howe, and Valeria Ramirez, hopefully at 6:30 on Wednesday. Then we'll be talking to our middle school coordinator, Coach Joey Hassel. He'll come in here. We'll be talking a little bit about our football program in the middle school, see what's going on there and what the future looks like for the Pirates, for the Rockport-Fulton Pirates. And then, of course, we'll go into the breakdown of the offense, the defense, and special teams, the breakdown of the Rockport-Fulton Pirates game versus Sinton. That'll be very interesting. Tune in to hear what the guys have to say about the game. We were all there. And then, of course, we will be previewing Friday's game that Rockport will have as we travel to Rio Hondo. So it's a lot of things going on tomorrow. Hopefully, my plans are to go down to Miller and live stream the Rockport-Fulton Lady Pirates varsity game against Miller. These girls are one step closer to bringing the district title back to Rockport. So if you can't make the game, tune into GT Sports on YouTube. And when they come back home, it'll be great to come out and pack that gym and support our girls, because it looks like we're in a good position right now to bring that district title back to Rockport-Fulton. And then, of course, Thursday and Friday are the games. I think the JV plays in San Diego, the freshmen play here. And then, of course, the Friday's the big game at Rio Hondo. Steve, before we go, I think you and I are going to be over at the youth. They've got a big game Saturday here all day, right? So
Yeah.
Steve and I don't know, Tony and Johnny are going to join you, but we're going to try to be out there. If I have to work, I'll get out there as soon as I can, but we want to kind of live stream maybe the juniors and seniors and get going, and maybe, get some interview from some of the coaches. We'll see what happens. But we definitely want to make a day out there at Pirates Stadium on Saturday. We got the future Pirates playing. They're going to be playing, all 4 divisions are going to be playing here. Steve or I will put up the times, the schedule for Saturday's games. But if you ain't doing nothing and you're in town, stop by and support our youth football team at Pirates Stadium. Steve, the first game starts at what, 8, 9?
8 o'clock.
8 o'clock. So come on out and support our youth here at Rockport, man. They're the future of the Rockport-Fulton Park. So guys, until then, thank you very much. Have a good night, and we'll talk on Wednesday.
Wednesday. Okay.